Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to March 1st. It's a beautiful day outside, and we're hoping for more of these days. Today, we are starting our 28th meeting of the 24th Council, and I will call this meeting to order. Good afternoon, councilors. All of our councilors are present today via Zoom. And I would like to ask, we're going to have a moment of silence, but I would like to ask for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask Councilor Harris to lead us in that pledge. And in Spanish, I would like to ask Councilor Gibson, do you think you could be up to that challenge? No? Okay, well,
I would
then
love
how
to,
about
but I'm
Councilor?
afraid I would not do well, so I don't want to
Okay, that's fine.
ruin the Spanish language.
Thank you for that. I will ask Councilor Benton then to read the allegiance in Spanish. So we are going to take just a moment of silence. And for those of you watching, this is International Women's Month. And I would like to just recognize our 6 women councilors on City Council. And I would like to take a moment of silence for the women that are in leadership positions and especially in government, because this has been a really difficult year. And our counselors have done this with grace, and I very much appreciate them. I also appreciate our male counselors, but since it is International Women's Month, I would like to just take a moment of silence right now.
Please join me in the pledge.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Let's start. Can people hear me?
Go ahead, Counselor. We can hear you.
Let me start again. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Counselor Harris. Counselor Benton?
Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
I just also want to recognize that we have a number of city staff who are women in leadership positions as well in city government. So we're very proud of them as well. So with that, I am going to read into the record some of our rules of procedure for our Zoom meeting today. As was noted in a press release from our office on Friday, posted on our website and noticed on our published council agenda, this meeting has special procedures given the governor's declaration of a public health emergency and restrictions on gatherings. Therefore, this meeting is being held via Zoom video conference. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting live through 4 different platforms: GOV-TV on Comcast, Channel 16, the GovTV website, YouTube, and Zoom webinar. These live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. For those watching on the live stream, thank you for joining us. The video recording of this and all past council meetings will also remain available for viewing at any time on the City Council's website. Council staff is available via telephone if members of the public need assistance finding the videos online. Please call 768-3100 for assistance during the business hours, which are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The council is accepting live general public comments today, as well as any written comments. Written comments received by 1 p.m. today were distributed to all of our city councilors in advance of today's meeting. So with that, counselors, we will begin our city business. Counselor Pena, I believe that you have a presentation from the Illegal Dumping Partnership, and I believe you can introduce your guest. Thank you, Counselor Pena.
Thank you, Madam President. We have with us today Mr. Lucas Tafoya, and if we could bring him in, I'll just kind of briefly give him an introduction. Lucas is actually, I think he's the director at the county for the IDP. And part of how the IDP started was, as you all know, we're having some similar issues with speeding in our respective districts. And we actually, myself and Commissioner Quesada, we started getting a lot of calls from our constituents. So we got together and it kind of snowballed, and we ended up having more and more partners because, as you know, illegal dumping doesn't just occur in District 3, but throughout the city. And really, they've really taken the baton and really done an outstanding job. And right now, what they're trying to do is bring awareness to the issue. And they reached out and asked if council would be interested in partnering to sponsor the campaign that they're going to launch here pretty quickly as a result of this. So without too much more, I will introduce Mr. Tafoya, and I want to thank the counselors who have contributed. There's several, I don't know if it's necessary to mention the counselors, but thanks to you who have contributed. I really appreciate you. So Mr. Tafoya, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Pena. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me some time to talk trash with you all. I am Lucas Tafoya. I'm the chair, as Madam Council stated, and I'm just here to kind of give you a little bit of background on the Illegal Dumping Partnership, or the IDP, what we've been able to accomplish in our short time and kind of where we're headed. Next slide, please. So as Councilor Pena stated, back in 2018, her and Commissioner Quesada did a tour of the some of the sites out on the west side of town. And you all are, I'm sure, aware, we've been dealing with illegal dumping for a very long time. But it seems that over the last probably 5 years or maybe a little more, it has gotten a lot worse. And so some of the things that we've done, we'll talk about, and I'll keep it brief, but there's a cause and effect to it, and I'll get into that. So next slide, please. So back in 2018, after touring the dump sites, there was also a boots on the ground type conference out in Grants, hosted by Doña Ana County. They have a very successful legal dumping partnership out there. And they really just kind of gave us, like, here's how you do it. Here's the players, here's how you can make things happen. Pull your resources and do some different things to make things happen. And so, Councilor Pena and Commissioner Quesada sent their staff, as well as our staff from the Planning and Development Services staff, went out there and learned quite a bit. And so when we came back, with their leadership and support and helping us get together a lot of different organizations, this IDP was formed in 2019. Next slide, please. So here are all the current partners: Bernalillo County, New Mexico Environment Department, the Water Authority, Council of Governments, Conservancy District, City of Albuquerque, APS, AMAFCA, the sheriffs and APD, PNM, and NMDOT. That was the core start of this. And then over the last year, the West Central Community Development Group, as well as Somos Unidos, and most recently, in the last month, CNM joined us. And so we're continuing to grow, and a good and bad thing. It's good to see all these organizations come together for a really hard cause. So next slide, please. So over the first year, we met met to kind of get our issues out on the table, because yes, Doña Ana has a successful IDP, but it's going to be unique in this area of the state, because we have all of these government organizations and entities, as well as private, and it's more government entities primarily out in Doña Ana County that are on the IDP. So so we have illegal dumping going on, not just on our public lands, but on private lands and all over the place. So so anyway, we had to develop our mission and our vision. And so we really want to try and minimize the illegal dumping that's going on. We're never going to stop it, but we want to minimize this pollution that's going on in our community, and kind of gauge it, how much is really going on, how much are we picking up, how maybe some kind of change, how do we kind of mark that that data. And so really we want to educate the community. What are the alternatives to illegal dumping? What are the causes? What are the problems with it? And really just change behavior. For some reason, people have feel now that it's okay, and we've got to change that behavior, because it's really not. And so let's see what we can do to change that behavior. So we're just pulling our resources to do that. And so our vision is a clean, safe, healthy environment and a prosperous community free of litter, polluting debris, and harmful materials. And so in order to accomplish this, we have divided up into two subcommittees, and one is a deterrence and the other is educational. And I'll talk about these for a couple of minutes here. Next slide, please. So the deterrence group has a couple of different subcommittees within it. We have a joint agency operation for tire recycling disposal. The City of Albuquerque Code Enforcement, Chris Romero has been joining us with that, as well as the State Environment Department and the department I'm in. We got together and kind of pulled our laws, our regulations, and because some are unique to Bernalillo County, like the tire ordinance that we have, and then others are unique to NMED in regards to the different documentation that's required to track all of this material. And then the City of Albuquerque, you've got your code enforcement, and we all have business licensing going on. So we want to try and see what we can do to visit these businesses that generate scrap tires, and inform them, hey, we've got a problem with these scrap tires ending up in vacant lands, arroyos, and back alleys in different places. And we want to try and limit that from happening and promote responsible recycling and dealing with these tires. We also, other partners, the MAFCA, the Conservancy District, and Public Works have come together to put gates up and at access points to these open spaces. And it's not to limit pedestrians and people going on their horses or whatever to enjoy these open spaces, but it is to limit access for people with a pickup truck that's going to dump their trash. And just last week, there was, believe it or not, a piano in the dry ditch. I don't know. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And we also have proactive patrols going on with our law enforcement and our zoning staff. And they're going out to these open spaces when they have a chance and just kind of keeping an eye on things, providing a presence. But also, the Sheriff's Department, they busted some people and prosecuted them, and that's also a deterrence. But really, next slide. What we want to do is we want to educate, and so. But anyway, just some statistics, and I won't go through all of these. But over the last year, it was kind of our first year of trying to get going with it, but we were kind of held up a little bit by COVID. I'm sure you can probably imagine. We were planning on going out and doing events and getting in the schools and getting in all of these different public situations, and that kind of didn't happen. So we had to pivot and come up with some other ways. But but we did benchmark and we did try and identify what's been cleaned up, how much has been cleaned up at all of these different sites. And also Bernalillo County offers or provides cleanup days, about 17 of them throughout the year, where we kind of target a specific area of town, send out mailers and to the community and ask them to come bring their trash. And we have the dumpsters there, and some occasions we do also provide household hazardous waste collection, and as well as some locations you can pick up tires. So anyway, that's what this slide's about. Next slide, please. So the educational outreach is really where we want to try and make a big impact, because most of what we've been doing in deterrence is what we've been doing for the last 20 years that I've been with the county. Try and catch somebody, which is really hard to do, and then really adding insult to injury, going after the property owner who's getting their property dumped on and making them clean it up. And so it just is, it's just a really hard way to make things happen, because it's, well, obviously it's not working. So we need to come up with other ways to deal with this issue. So we've broken out into some ways to provide some educational outreach. So we developed a slogan, "Let's talk trash." We also developed a logo, which you'll see there, the IDP logo, and we've got a website and Facebook. We've got about 490 followers on Illegal Dumping Partnership New Mexico, or NM. And I would appreciate if you all would like us and share our stories, because these are all contributions by all of the partners. So the Conservancy District, the PNM, all of these different partners, they contribute every couple of weeks a different posting. Carlos Coyote and Friends is a character that we borrowed, and we bought the licensing from Doña Ana County, and they had some comic books and some other books that they had already developed, and so we were able to just get those same books, put our logo, put our contact information and our partners on it, and which was really helpful. APS did a lot of that printing. We got about 2,200 copies out, distributed last year through various means, through summer lunch program, and commissioners and counselors handed them out for different events that they had. Council President also read Carlos Coyote on her Lavender Libros on YouTube. Thank you for that. And then another kind of exciting part of the Carlos Coyote characters, there's many characters and stories, but APS is reaching out, or has reached out to the artist of this this character, and they're developing a new story or a new book for our IDP for Central New Mexico. And so just nice to see things kind of developing there. Next slide, please. And they're also going to try and get this into their curriculum. So wherever we can get in and talk to the kids, we want to get them young. And kids are great at shaming their parents. You know, don't smoke around me. Make sure you buckle up. Those kind of things. And so, you know, we want to get kids to learn at a young age that this isn't wrong. This is wrong, and here's why it's wrong. You know, you're polluting your rivers and arroyos and the wildlife, and you know all of the reasons why this is bad. But showing them some of these shocking pictures, because it really kind of resonates, and we hope to get these kids to help us with this. Media coverage. I've done a couple of interviews over the last year. We've done a few press releases, and unfortunately, over the last year, we haven't been able to get out to any community events, but we did help the city solid waste. We contributed to the virtual junk jog, and so that was really successful. I think on the county side, I don't know exactly how much was collected total for the junk jog, but we had a couple of sites, and we collected about 50 bags out of a couple of sites along near the bridges at Dolores Huerta and Rio Bravo. Next slide, please. So our educational outreach this is kind of the beginning of our campaign. We're going to be doing a media campaign here this last of this fiscal year, and then we're going to be trying to get funding to continue this, because we have, thank you counselors, thank you commissioners. There's been a great, a lot of contribution. We have over 40,000 just from you all. We had also some other seed money that we were able to get from some grant funding that was unspent from New Mexico tourism grant that Bernalillo County has, and some other funding sources. So we've got a pretty good setup for this fiscal year, for the end of this fiscal year. But we're going to need to continue this, and we're going to ask for more grant funding. Hopefully, we can get some money to kind of carry us through through 22 FY. The illegal, what is it? The Recycling and Illegal Dumping Partnership, excuse me, RAID, Recycling and Illegal Dumping. It's a RAID grant from New Mexico Environment Department. We're going to try that. We're going to keep going after that New Mexico Tourism grant. And hopefully you all can just help us to continue to spread the word. But we're going to be trying to get ads going out on television, radio, billboards. Social media is a nice, cheap option in some ways. And we're going to get other print out there as well. So next slide, please. Any questions?
Thank you, Lucas. If you can close the screen, Julian, thank you. I don't know if any of the counselors have any questions, but before you do, Counselor Gibson, you're on mute.
So it occurred to me while Mr. Tafoya was speaking that very likely a lot of what we're seeing throughout the city may be done by small businesses or contractors who are maybe in a hurry and just looking for a place to get rid of stuff quickly. Do we have any idea what the source is of this illegal dumping? You know, if it's mostly just household trash or maybe more construction.
Madam Vice President, it's everyone, unfortunately. Yes, it is contractors. I have pictures of construction waste, also of landscaping waste or green waste. But it's also couches and mattresses and household trash. It's just a little bit of everything. I mean, it goes down to if you want to get down to the dog poop and the McDonald's trash out the window. I mean, it's just a behavior that we're kind of accepting here in New Mexico, and we need to try and change that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Counselor Sena has a question also. Counselor Pena.
Counselors, thank you, Madam President. Counselor Sena.
Thank you to both counselors, and thank you, Mr. Tafoya. I just wanted to extend my appreciation to Mr. Tafoya. He met me this morning at a location in my district that's been seeing a lot of issues in regards to illegal dumping, and coming together with code enforcement, with our sheriff's office and APD to really look at the site and think of creative ways to really address it. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation for meeting me this morning, and also for your leadership within IDP. I do appreciate it. I'm also very excited to see what Carlos Coyote and the rest of his crew will be doing for the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Jones has a question. Counselor Pena.
Yes, Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Just an aside, but kind of along the similar thing. it isn't just dumping in our arroyos and dumping on the west side of town and dumping in areas where people won't see us. The trash issue in the city of Albuquerque is overwhelming. Everywhere, every part of the city. There isn't a part in the city where we can't drive down the street and see liquor, bottles, cans, trash, bags, plastic bags, especially grocery bags, flying around the city and all over. And I must say, I need to compliment a couple people who I know who walk around, live near Albuquerque Academy. They walk around it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. It's 3.6 miles. I happen to have done that a few times. And they take trash bags and they pick up trash. And on any given day, 3 days a week, they can have as many as 4 or 5 or more huge, the big black 33-gallon trash bags full of paper and trash and bottles and a lot of liquor bottles all over. And I think if we all were to adopt an area of the city near us and do this, first of all, it's fun, it's healthy, we get fresh air, and we meet a lot of new people. And we don't always have to depend on the city of Albuquerque to do this for us. But I think it's time that we all look at what we are doing to our city and our state with the trash and the illegal tossing out of the windows of a huge number of little mini liquor bottles. Go figure, huh? So just a suggestion, as warm weather is coming in, and it's a very pleasant and interesting and fun thing, and you meet a lot of nice people, usually walking dogs. So thank you, Madam President, for indulging me with that.
Thank you. Counts.
I'm looking to see if there's any other counselors in the queue. I just want to mention I had the pleasure of attending the press conference the other day with several counselors and Councilor Pena and Commissioner Quesada. And, you know, the area that we met at was just, I mean, it was just a mess. And it was right on a public major arterial. I have an area in my district that people have suddenly decided that should be a trash location, and we're trying to clean it up. I very much appreciate their advocacy and, you know, Councilor Pena and Councilor Quesada bringing this to light. I only see, Mr. Tafoya, that this entire effort is going to grow because I think people are becoming more and more aware. And as we make them more and more aware, I had some individuals in my district as well, Councilor Jones, Mr. and Mrs. Norwalk, who came to me about 2 years ago, and they go out and pick up trash on a daily basis. The question that I had, Mr. Trujillo, is I didn't see open space on your advisory. Are they on your advisory board as well? I just didn't see them.
Madam President, no, we do not have the city open space. We have several city representation on the partnership IDP, solid waste.
I want to talk with Director Simon, Dave Simon, and just see if they can, because especially I know like in my district, in our open space areas, we find just an assortment of things in the arroyos and the storm drains. You know, we find, I mean, there's just so much trash that unfortunately people, instead of paying $5, which is really a very minimum amount, you know, it seems like they should spend that $5 and go wait their turn. But the more awareness we bring to this issue, I think the more your program is going to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, sir. We appreciate you.
Madam President, if I could just say a couple of things. I didn't hear you.
Sorry, Councilor Pena, I put myself on mute. Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Director Tafoya. I really appreciate all the work you're doing. You know, I want to thank all the counselors who have contributed. Again, you know, yes, we do need to do the enforcement, but public awareness, as Counselor Jones was saying, and making people, you know, helping people to be more aware of the issue. I know one of, just going back to Counselor Gibson's comments, is one thing that I've noticed talking to a lot of constituents is that maybe it's something that we can put out, and I can ask Julian to draft something so that we could put out on all of our individual Facebook pages, those of us who have them, just saying about calling 311 for large item pickups. I mean, I think so many people, even Commissioner Quesada admits that he didn't realize that we had that ability to have the large item pickup. So I think those things as part of this awareness campaign are really going to help and go a long way. So thank you all for contributing. Thank you, Lucas. Tell Ms. Luna I appreciate all of her work as well. And I look forward to making a dent in this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pena, Mr. Tafoya. We're going to move on with our next order of business. And about a week ago, I saw a presentation on one of our TV channels regarding our crime statistics. So I called Chief Medina, Acting Chief Medina, and asked him if he would like to present that same presentation so that we can get that information out to the public a little bit more, because I know there are a lot of people that watch GOV TV, especially our city council meetings. So he agreed to do that. And this afternoon we have with us Deputy Chief JJ Griego, who is going to present our crime trends in Albuquerque. Ms. Griego, are you on the line?
This is Deputy Chief Griego. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Deputy Chief. Sorry, Mr. Griego.
Oh, that's all right. Happens a lot. If you can switch to the next slide. I'm not going to bore you with reading you verbatim this slide, just a couple of points I want to highlight on here. The Albuquerque Police Department uses the NIBRS reporting system. And it is a system that is governed by the FBI and their Uniform Crime Reporting program. We used to use the SRS system, and the SRS system is not as comprehensive as the NIBRS system. And the FBI is requiring all agencies in the country to transition to the NIBRS system. I'm going to get to a slide here in a minute that talks about the differences. One of the things that I wanted to stress too, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we present these stats. They are a point in time, essentially. So these stats were pulled on February 17th, 2021. As reports come in, some of the data may change a little bit, delayed reporting or a crime changed in classification. For example, somebody comes home and finds their house broken into, but nothing stolen. That's a breaking and entering as opposed to a burglary because nothing was taken. However, a month or two later, they go to use an appliance or they look for something and they discover it's missing. That crime now changes to a burglary. I want to stress that even though we're talking about statistics, if I tell you a specific crime is down, that's really not much comfort if you are a victim of that particular crime. But what we have to do is look at the trends of crime overall. Next slide. So this is just a breakdown of the NIBRS versus the SRS system. The SRS system was developed in 1930. And clearly crime has changed since 1930. The NIBRS system has roughly 50 plus categories of crime versus the 8 categories that the SRS system comprised of. Next slide. So we look at the overall crime difference over the last 2 years. And you can see the crime went down. Overall, crime went down 7% from 18 to 19, and again, 7% from 19 to 20. On the rest of these slides, you'll notice the bottom at the 2-year difference might be different. It's not 14% because when we rounded it, that's going to be the number at the bottom. Next slide. So these are the crimes against property. These include all your burglaries, your vehicle thefts, your person-based crimes. And you can see we saw an overall reduction of 19% over the last 2 years. When I talk about crime, again, when I talk about statistics, you know, it's important to recognize that it's that many more citizens or community members in Albuquerque that didn't experience that type of crime. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that we look at as far as property crimes. As you can see, motor vehicle theft has gone down. Again, you know, it's that many more people that did not experience waking up in the morning and not finding their car in their driveway. So we are pleased to see these downward trends in property crimes. Next slide. So motor vehicle theft, 2018 to 2020, you can see a 24% reduction overall. And then again, in robbery, a 27% reduction. And those are fairly significant compared to other cities of our size. Next slide. Larceny and theft, a 19% decrease, and then burglary and breaking entering a 21% decrease over the last 2 years. Next slide. This is where we've seen a bit of an increase, and this is the crimes against persons. This is going to be the category that contains murder and non-negligent manslaughter and those type that we'll get to in the next slide. But you can see there's a 2-year difference of 3%. Next slide. So those are the different categories in crimes against persons. As you can see, they are trending not in the direction we want to see them go. We are working on several programs to ensure that we are addressing these issues with collaboration with not only our federal partners, but with the DA's office and local partners as well. Next slide. Aggravated assault, there's a 9% increase over the last 2 years, 4% from 2019 to 2020. And in murder, that's the NIBRS category. That's the way it's defined in NIBRS. The 2-year difference was 10%. There was a reduction of 5% from 2019 to 2020. The next slide. Simple assault. We did see an increase overall, 3% in simple assaults. And sex offenses, we saw a reduction of 24%. That's 19% from 2019 to 2020. Crimes against society, next slide. And as you can see there, there's been an increase of 15%, 4% from 19 to 20. If you go to the next slide, it'll show you the categories that apply to crimes against society. And if you can see it on the screen there, there has been an exponential increase in weapons law violations. They have gone from 596 all the way up to 1,142. Next slide will be a graphic of those. You can see that there was a decrease of 1% in drug and narcotic offenses. But again, we see the troubling increase in weapons law violations, a 2-year difference of 92%. And that concludes that presentation.
Deputy Chief, do we have any questions from counselors? Counselor Jones, Counselor Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a question, Deputy Chief, and I have a large number of people who contact me about this. The statistics that you are showing, are these based on officers actually going out and investigating a crime? Do we include the crimes that the people who have been robbed or their cars damaged or issues where they are told to not come to the station and not call the station, but simply fill out a form online. Are those crimes, which they are those included in your crime reporting, or are those only used so that the unsuspecting citizens can make a claim and get the insurance paid on their vehicles or whatever has been damaged?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Councilor Jones. It includes all the data that we get, so it'll include online reports, as well as those reports where the officer goes out and physically takes a report. It encompasses all that. So when they do an online report, it gets a different type of case number, and we account for those case numbers as well.
Madam President, may I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you, President. And if I may, sir, do you think there will actually come a time when the officers will go out and look at these crime scenes, especially if it's something that has happened relatively frequently in certain areas of town, as in certain parking areas where windows are smashed out, cars are damaged and stolen? So far, I've not talked with anyone who has been a victim of this type of crime who has had the opportunity to speak with a police officer.
So what we try to do is we try to balance the solvability factors against the resources that we have. So in other words, if I wake up in the morning and there's just an oil spot where my car used to be, there's no video, there's no information on who may have taken the car. Generally, we try to have that resolved through a telephone report or an online report if there's no offender information. If there is information, those are the calls that we would like to respond to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Davis and then Councilor Sena. Councilor Davis?
That's okay. Thank you. I'll pass.
Okay, okay, thank you. We're going to move on to Councilor Sena.
Thank you, Madam President. I did have a question, Deputy Chief. In regards to some of the statistics regarding sex crimes, with COVID being present, people being stuck in certain situations, quarantining at home, is this a good representation of numbers? Do you think that it could be underreported, or even in regards to crimes against children with kids not going to school? I just worry, and I know that there was a big campaign to kind of talk about certain safety aspects for teachers or educators that are viewing virtual class, but I was just curious what follow-up has been done in regards to some of the sex crimes.
Thank you for the question, Madam President, Councilor Sena. That is a concern of ours. With children not going to school and having that oversight of a teacher or someone who's in a situation where they are not reporting to work, maybe they're working remotely, they may not have the same safety net as pre-COVID. So those are the things that we're taking a look at as well. But I do share your concern that it is currently being underreported.
Thank you, Madam President. If I can follow up as well.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I would love to, know of any campaigns, any push, and work with any nonprofits to really get that across the board for people to really recognize. I know certain campaigns being done nationwide to recognize some signs via Zoom. But my next question is also relating to some of the crime stats. Nationwide, we are seeing an increase, and I did mention this during public safety as well, an increase in anti-Asian discrimination, hate crimes, and attacks, an increase of 1,900% across the nation. I know we were briefly, just given an update at public safety, but if you can go into more detail as to how our community can feel safe, specifically around some of this anti-Asian hate and discrimination.
So I don't have those statistics with me at the moment. I can get that data to you. But you know, I do want the public to be assured that you know, that the Albuquerque Police Department and the city is here for those individuals who feel like they are being treated in violation of the law or unfairly, and based on their race, religion, sexual preference, and you know, any of the other categories where we would characterize it as either a hate crime or discrimination.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I'm going to follow up with you on that. I know that across the board, a lot of the community is still feeling very leery, and just some of the attacks that they've seen nationwide. I have not presently heard of anything occurring locally, thank goodness, but would love to know if there is a campaign to do some more outreach. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sena. I don't see any other hands raised by any of our councillors. I had a really quick question, Deputy Chief, and that was with regard to our police service aides and our police. And I'm just curious how our police service aides are being used, because I don't see very many of them in my district anyway. Just wondering, you know.
So yes, the police service aid program is alive and well. In fact, my daughter is currently a police service aide. And they are essentially doing those type of tasks that do not necessarily require a sworn officer. So they will go out and take accident reports. They'll take reports where it's delayed and there's no offender information. They're kind of still doing the same things that they've always done, and we're trying to expand those tasks for as well.
Thank you. And thank your daughter for that work.
Thank you.
Thank her. Okay, councilors, I don't see any other questions. So with that, we will move on. We thank you, Deputy Chief, for being in this afternoon with us and sharing your report. If you would please send that report to all of our councilors, I would appreciate that.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, councilors, with that, we will move on. I'm going to move the agenda around just a bit, just to take care of some city council issues that have come to light. And I'm going to start with item number 15, other business. Item A, approval of committee appointments. And apparently, Councilor Sena and Councilor Harris have talked about maybe Councilor Sena taking on the responsibility for the, let's see, I always get the two too confused. It's
both of them.
It's both of them?
It's Mr. Cog and MTV.
Okay, it's Mr. Cog and MTV. And Councilor Harris is currently on that committee, on both of those committees, actually. And he would like Councilor Sena to take that responsibility from him. So if councilors are not opposed to that, then I would move for approval of the revised committee appointments. And that is in your iPad. I will just remind you in case you didn't see that. So I would make that motion if councilors are, unless councilors have questions. There's a second by Councilor Benton. Is that a second, Councilor Benton? Or is that a question?
Yes, it is a second.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis. Councilor Davis? Excuse?
Yes.
Councilor Gibb. Oh, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Councilor Harris, you're on mute.
Councilor Harris?
What was the last vote?
Councilor Gibson, she voted yes.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Councilor Jones?
Yes.
Councilor Pena?
Yes.
Councilor Sena?
Yes.
Councilor Borrego?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. And thank you, Counselor Senna, for taking those added responsibilities. And I'm going to move to final actions. I have 2 items under final actions that I'd kind of like to deal with since they are also related to City Council. I'm going to move to item number F to start with, and that is RA4. And this is amending Article 2, Section 4 and Article 3, Section 21 of the City Council Rules of Procedure relating to the committees of the council. I move a do pass, and I would need a second on the do pass. I have a second by Councilor Bassan. Thank you for that second, Councilor Bassan. Are there any questions related to that? If not, we have an amendment, which I will move as floor amendment number 1. And it's on the screen, counselors. It's also in your iPad if you haven't seen that. And I would move floor amendment number 1, and I'll read it into the on page 1, line 22 and 23, delete the word facilities within open space. I have a second. I believe I can't see my, I need a second on that amendment, counselors. I have a second by Counselor Bassan. Are there any questions on the amendment, counselors? Counselor Gibson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. That wasn't on the screen long enough for me. And I was
specifically mentioned stadiums in the past, and it's not something we deal with often. Obviously, there may be a request at some point here in the near future about that. But I'm curious why the sponsors chose to move that to FGO. As a general rule, I think that sort of thing sounds like a land use option for me. It's not really a, if there were bonds, of course, related to that, that would automatically go, I think, to the Finance Committee. But in terms of where it might be located or the types of hearings, I think that sounds more like a land use, and it would be more consistent given our practice in the past and how we dealt with the studies for where that goes and looking at the appropriateness of different neighborhoods. I wonder why the sponsors think that might be better suited.
I have Councilor Davis. I'm going to have Stephanie also, or Ms. Yara, respond to that as well.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Davis, it was really a suggestion from myself because we have seen stadium projects come up in our CIP plan in the last maybe 3 cycles. Normally that type of capital stuff would go to FGO if the committee of the whole wasn't in session. But I'm certainly open to suggestions about the land use piece.
Madam President, if I could just ask a clarifying question, it's my last one, I'm sure. Ms. Yara, could you help me? And so I think we do have a study out there, and maybe we don't need. I think we have a study out there coming very soon related to, say, the appropriateness of the location, for example. If that were to come to the City Council, would that go under these proposed rules? Would that go to FGO, or would that be considered a land use question because it's about siting and evaluating different uses and potential zoning changes?
Madam President and Councilor Davis, normally I would refer something like that to FGO because it's basically approving a contract for that purpose. So that's within the jurisdiction of FGO, but as it relates to land use issues, maybe it needs some clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Yara. I think it might. I'd rather hear the rest of the comments, Madam President, but I think just to be clear that land use still remains with LUPS, even if it relates to these bigger projects. But I'd listen to the other comment and maybe reserve the right to offer that amendment in a minute.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. I will move on to Councilor Jones and then Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Yara, I think this is a great idea in most of the areas. I think it certainly does remove some of the cumbersome inner workings that we have to, and all the different hoops we have to jump through to be able to talk with you and get full information. And I think this will make our interaction with the director far less complicated and certainly quicker and so I appreciate that a great deal. I do have the concern about any land issues bypassing LUPS. There's a reason why it's called land use planning and zoning. And I really would like to revisit that and take a good hard look at it. about what we're thinking would not go to LUPS, but would go to a different committee. I think that needs a little more thought, but the interaction with the director is absolutely a great idea. Certainly helps all of us, and hopefully you too, make things work faster and easier. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor Jones, we'll move on to Councillor Benton.
I think this is a good discussion. I mean, there are clearly land use questions with regard to a stadium. That's a major impact. You know, there were long and very drawn out discussions when the siting of the baseball stadium was discussed years ago. And these stadium projects, however, are also tend to be involve a lot of public money. And if so, you know, this may be something along the lines, although it was sort of a confusing situation with the pool property, that we're talking about an important land use decision along with a big fiscal decision on the part of the city, most likely in both cases. So maybe that's something we, you know, I don't think it precludes the land use. Certainly if there's obviously if there's a zone change required, in many cases there will be. But also definitely the fiscal questions of how deep the city goes into the subsidy of the stadium. So, you know, there's something to be said for both. I don't think there's anything contradictory in your bill, Madam President, to that, but we might need to revisit it with more discussion later, depending on how it all unfolds. Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Benton, Councillor Jones, did you raise your hand again?
No.
Okay. I completely agree. I think that there's nothing that precludes it from going to land use. If there are obvious questions related to land use or sector plans or master plans or subdivision or things of that nature. But I think what this does is it really clarifies, you know, that there are financial matters that should be discussed by the FGO. And in that case, maybe we need to look at both committees, recommending to both committees. But I think in terms of efficiency from a budget standpoint, I think it really does clarify. And maybe Councillor Davis, I see you're, you were talking about an amendment. I don't know if you have anything drafted, but I see two other hands, and I want to go on to these individuals first before I come back to you, Councillor Davis. So we have, it looks like our director wants to clarify something, and then we have Councillor Bassan. Would it be okay if Councillor Bassan went first? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that given the last experience with the pool property in the dual committees and some of the, should we amend, should we not amend, should we wait to amend, should we, I find it very confusing, and I think that it really dulls the process. So I would really be opposed to doing it into a dual committee. I can see the valid argument for FGO or the valid argument for LUPS, but perhaps it almost should be referred based off of what the topic is of whatever comes up at that time. If it's really about a site use and where we're thinking about putting it, then maybe it should go to LUPS. If it's more about the money and how much it's going to be, then maybe it should go to FGO based off of whatever proposed piece of legislation comes down. I realize that there could be likely both of those in the same piece of legislation, but I really think that the dual committees almost makes it not worth putting in a committee anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Bassan. We're going to move back to Ms. Yara, because I think she has some clarification possible.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just actually wanted to reemphasize what Councillor Bassan just said. The council rules actually give discretion to referrals to committee to the president of the council. So when there's a situation where it's unclear we would fall back on the president to make that referral based on their judgment. So there is a path to that scenario.
Thank you, Ms. Yar. I see that Councilor Pena has raised her hand. Oh, no, Councilor Pena. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor then, since no other councilors have raised their hands, to adopt the amendment. And I believe, was there a second on that? Yes. There was a second, so we will go to vote on the amendment. And with that, Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. That passes on a 9-0 vote. We will go back to the original bill now, which is RA4. And I made a motion. Was there a second on that? There's a second by Councillor Sena and Councillor Bassan. So with that, no further discussion. Ms. Ortega, would you like to take a vote on that?
Yes, Madam President. Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. And I think that we will find that we don't need more committees than we need. So even if I'm proposing a new one today. I also would say that, if there are issues, we can always revisit this bill again and make changes as needed. So thank you for your indulgence, councilors. And with that, I'm going to move on to under final actions. I'm going to go back a little bit because I think it's appropriate since it's also related to our council business. Under final actions, item C, R130, establishing a city healthy communities, public health and sustainability policy committee. And we deferred this, if you recall, at our last meeting. And I might be a little out of order. Do we have that on the screen? Because I have an amendment to this particular bill. And we're going to pull that up for you, councilors. This item at the last meeting. Okay, we deferred it. Okay, so councilors, as you recall, we deferred this particular item at our last meeting. I've had some discussions since then with some of the staff, and also I was proposing a new committee that dealt with really policy issues from the council. And there were questions about whether or not this was appropriate, since other committees, we don't want to step on their toes like land use or FGO or things like that also deal with some policy. But this is really looking at citywide policy with regard to things like, and I'm going to say this, like the Goals Commission or things that are part of our charter. So having done a little bit more work on this, I decided that maybe it would be more appropriate to start with a task force similar to what Councillor Gibson had done with her B&B, and really kind of evaluate what would this committee really entail. So that is what this amendment does. It actually creates a task force, non-voting, with some non-voting advisory members from the mayor's office to look at overall city policy. And my intent for this committee is to look at city policy and give, sort of direction, I guess, in terms of things that we are involved with as we're coming out of COVID as we're dealing, we've had to deal with the CARES funding. We've had to deal with issues that came from some of our emergency declarations. We've had to deal with health issues in the city. Environmental health, things like that, housing issues that really, kind of came to us in an immediate kind of way that, maybe I think we actually did a pretty good job, but, we didn't always have the policy that guided us. So that's really what this amendment does. So I guess I need to, with that, eventually, maybe we would create this committee. So that's really what it'd be, more kind of exploratory at the beginning. There would be 3 members of the council and 2 advisory members from the administration. And so that is where I am at this point in time. I would move R130 as amended, councilors. And I guess, do I need to take a motion on the bill and then come back and do the amendment? Is that right? Okay, so I would move R130, councilors, and I would ask for a second. And I have a second from Councilor Sena. Thank you, Councilor Sena. Is there any discussion or are there any questions? Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. Did I see, I'm sorry that if I can remember what I saw and pull it up over here too, but is it, you said on there, this amendment that we're going to extend it to August 31st and then we can reevaluate this task force instead of committee? You can try it out.
Councilor Bassan, it's the other way around. The task force would be established and then the task force would be able to come to the council, make some recommendations regarding the committee.
Okay, and then Madam President, will you please clarify, and I know that we've had this discussion a little bit before, but I think that it's important to kind of touch base on the concept because I think it's fabulous that we need to make sure to have conversations together with the administration and those involved in creating policies for a stronger, more sustainable and healthy city. But isn't that what we do as a council with the administration already, is evaluating what policies we should put forth for the betterment of the city? And how would this task force differ in comparison with what council already does?
Well, I think what it would do, Councilor Bassan, is it would actually formalize the process because currently, we all do meet regarding the budget. We all do meet with, regarding land use issues. But there are issues that, sometimes council doesn't always have the opportunity until it gets before us. And I think this kind of formalizes that a little bit further. And let me give you an example. The Goals Commission, which, we haven't seen a report regarding the Goals Commission. I understand the administration is in the process of finalizing that report to us. We had asked about that Goals Commission about a year ago, and we still haven't seen that report. So I think these are issues that, in terms of public policy, we need to ensure that we are getting answers. And I think our standing committees already do that to some effect, but I think this may be looking at some of the things that, like, for example, the emergency directives that came from the mayor's office. I think that those were issued and, we saw them after they were issued. So there are bigger sort of overarching policy questions that come to mind, and I think those are the issues that we need some guidance on, and not guidance, but we need to know about before they're actually administered.
Thank you, Madam President. If I may respond to that too, I think this is a really great idea in theory, and yet I'm struggling to be able to find a way to support it because I feel like if we find out that something's not meeting properly, or that we haven't gotten the full report back from something that was directed in some other earlier policy or legislation, then we should take it upon ourselves to make sure to call upon that. And that's, I feel like you can't get much more formal than the city council and the administration. So, I mean, I think that on some ends, I see where it's an attempt to make things more formal, but I also realize that with those emergency declarations, we don't get a say in them. That is completely the administration's say. So regardless of if we found out about it, for example, in advance or not, it wouldn't have changed anything. So I'm not trying to chew it apart. I just am struggling to find an ability to be able to support this when I do feel like this is our utter responsibility as is already.
Counselor, and that's why we went back and created the task force, so that we could know whether or not this is a viable idea, or are there things out there. And let me give you an example, another example. If we're growing as a city, we're coming out of COVID, and people are talking about Albuquerque being in a position to, you know, take on more growth, and to, especially when we're doing projects like Paseo del Norte, or you know, Double Eagle Airport, or Paseo del Volcan eventually. I mean, I think we need to start talking about some of these issues of how our city will grow sustainably, how we become a healthy city, how we link our, you know, our trails, our roads, our transit, and how all of these issues sort of come together from an economic development standpoint, not just to create jobs, but to create a healthy community, so that, you know, we're all sort of working in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I feel like I would hope that all 9 of us would be doing that together as is. So, but thank you very much for the clarifications.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a difficult time understanding this. I believe this is what the City Council is supposed to do. We've never hesitated in the past to have a special study session, including the entire council, so that we can talk about these things and come up with ideas. And usually we have a very comfortable consensus of what we would like to do. I am concerned because some of us actually work and have jobs. I would not be one of them, but some of us do. And I think the more committees and study groups and special interest groups about certain things we form, the fewer opportunities the entire council has for input. And we do not ever want to be a council that rules by one personal philosophy that might be the philosophy of all, rather than every councilor and every point of view in every area of the city having something to say about it. So, Madam Chair, I think this is or Madam President, I think this is I understand where you're going with this, but I would be very uncomfortable not having special study sessions. If we have something like this that we need to discuss, it needs to be done by the entire council, at least the ones that choose to participate. I think an appointed committee or group or whatever we're calling it at this point will prove to cause more problems than it has the ability to try to mitigate. So, thank you, Madam President, for the time.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. And any committee that is established by the council always has the opportunity to go to the full council and to be discussed in a study, in a study session or at full council. So any policy that might be recommended out of this committee, and here's another example: housing. We have a housing authority, we have county housing, we have city housing, but there's a lot of questions regarding housing and how those groups interact. And I think so that's another example of areas where I do believe that maybe a little stronger policy might help the city move in a direction that, you know, we're all on board, I guess. So ultimately, the city council has the final authority, and the task force would only be looking to recommend any new policy. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm looking at the amendment and it reads, the task force established by this resolution will conclude business and cease to operate on August 31st, 2021, unless extended or converted into a more permanent committee of the council. So it is saying that we will convene this, if accepted by the council now, we'll give it kind of a trial run until August 31st, correct?
The committee would not be established, the task force would be established before August 31st. The committee would not be established until the council recommended it, which would be after the time that the task force would have some recommendations to the council.
Okay, thank you I just want to make sure that I'm clear on the amendment so that way we can move on and I feel good about it. But so the task force is kind of going to be the trial run until August 31st. And if the task force deems this worthy and effective and good, then we will revote on whether or not to continue this as a committee thereafter.
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Jones, you still have your hand up. Was that from the previous?
No, this is new.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. And I understand the philosophy of a task force. However, a task force is only as good as the people who are appointed to it. And if we're going to appoint people to a task force to make the initial recommendation to a committee, why don't we simply have the committee meet and do what they think they want to do? Otherwise, we're doubling up, or we are having the same people do both things. And I think we're at a point as a council right now when we need to be very careful about how and who are appointed to these things, so that I'm not comfortable with this. I am comfortable with, if you want to have one meeting as a full council to discuss this, and those who wish to participate may, but to form a task force and then a council committee and then another committee. And I think sometimes we are better off to make decisions than to talk about them over and over and over and over. So, Madam President, I cannot support this, but thank you. Thank you for the thought and the idea.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Councilor Benson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm a little iffy on this, honestly. We do have a new public safety committee meeting. We have numerous committees, and that's a new one. We do have the option, as was stated, to have study sessions on any. I'm not diminishing by any means any of these topics that you're proposing, Madam President. They're very important, critically important issues. I guess I'd like to hear from the administration on their thoughts on this. Thank you.
The administration available? I don't see them on the screen.
Yeah, they're there.
Oh, there they are. Go ahead, Sarita.
Thank you, Council President Borrego, Councilor Benton. This is really council's internal process. We're happy to support whatever gets decided. I think we would have a couple of seats on the task force under the current version, non-voting, but we've participated historically in council's other task forces like Airbnb or lowriders, and always been happy to support those as staff is required. Thank you.
I would also like to mention that Ryan Mast is on also from legal, and it was kind of coincidental that when I spoke with Sarita Nair, our chief administrative officer, about this, the administration had just put together an internal policy committee from the legal department. And I think Ryan is the person that's heading that particular group. And I don't I don't really want to make our policy development more complicated, but I think it's important that, you know, we really do look at our overarching policy for the city and how we move forward as a city. So that's, I don't know if Ryan wants to mention about his policy committee or not, but
Excuse me, Council President Borrego, Ryan Mast is our Director of Environmental Health.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The attorney that you mentioned to me when we spoke on the phone.
Yes, Council President Borrego, that would be Paul Heidel is the Deputy City Attorney. He oversees the Office of Civil Rights and the Consumer Financial Protection Initiative, as well as the alternate dispute resolution process. We didn't ask him to step on today, but we're happy to grab him if you'd like. But long story short, we could certainly have one of those folks staff the committee as a or working group or task force as appropriate. Thanks.
I think that you're here, Sarita, and that we had that discussion, you know, just for the council's knowledge. And that's what really, when I proposed this bill, that's really what, when I took a step back and said maybe we should look at a task force, the council would still have a vote, you know, as to whether or not we create it or not, whether it's appropriate. But there are some issues out there that I think that we need to take a look at our policy on and whether or not those policies are working. So with that, councilors, there's a floor amendment on, and I do have a second. Do I have another hand up? Councilor Sennar, did you have a question?
Yeah, Madam President, I just wanted to note and certainly welcome, as Councilor Benton mentioned, that public safety can have study sessions, which I'm certainly open to, of course, or through this task force, because I know that it's temporary unless we choose. For me, any opportunity to discuss social determinants of health and how it relates to policy and sustainability for our city, I'll always jump at. So I welcome these changes, but I do have some reluctance of the overall structure, but I'm willing to support it because it is temporary, and it is a task force to look at this committee, which we could certainly, I think, do as just council. But I do like the idea and concept overall. I would definitely love to hear from our Health Equity Council as well as part of this task force, since they have been doing this for a while, which they were previously under a different name but just changed. So I'm willing to support this as it is, but certainly, of course, always will welcome study sessions within public safety.
Councilor Pena raised your hand during that discussion. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, just to reiterate what Councilor Senna said, I think, you know, obviously this is very important. It's part of the, I think that the work we do on a continual basis. And then I, you know, with the new public safety bill, I just, you know, I think it's important. I see how this kind of could potentially blend with the Public Safety Committee. So I'm just not sure if maybe after we vote on the amendment, and I'm not, and having the discussions task force, we did it like someone said, Sarita said, the CAO said with the lowriders and such. So I'm up for a task force, but I think when we're having a task force to decide whether we want the committee, I would be more inclined to just maybe as a committee of the whole meet, special meeting, something to discuss whether we should do this or not. So for those reasons, I'm less inclined to support the task force, but I'd be more inclined to talk about a deferral so that maybe we can meet to discuss whether this is some blending of the Public Safety Committee or the like. So I guess what I would be saying is I would support a deferral at this time so we can, you know, get to what you're trying to accomplish. But
and Councilor Pena, let me explain the reason that I didn't include the public safety. Councilor Senna and I had this discussion. I didn't include it in in line with public safety is because public safety is really, you know, I mean, it deals with crime, and that's really the way, you know, and that's a question for the task force, I guess. Does it make sense that they're combined, or that they're not combined? Or, I mean, and remember, my background is in public policy, and that's why am bringing this bill forward, is that I do see some gaps in terms of public policy that the city could strengthen as we come out of COVID and as we move forward. Public health, you know, how do we see our population moving forward in terms of coming out of, I mean, the psychological effects, and maybe at some point in time, that new department may actually be more an area that this would, you know, include, but I don't know that for a fact. I mean, I think at this point, it's something that I would like to explore a little bit more. And that was really the purpose of the task force.
So, Madam President, so I agree with you. I think we're trying to achieve the same thing. It's just that when you talk about crime, I tend to disagree on that point, because I think crime and public safety and health and homelessness and our housing issue, they're all interrelated. And one of the concerns that I have had, even when we were at ABCGC, where I think we also talk about a lot of these issues, right? So creating so many different committees, I'm just worried that we begin to operate in silos and not have a lot of the communication that we should all receive as an entire body. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. I like what you're trying to do, but I would hope that maybe we could just defer just to see if we can, you know, have some discussions about what it looks like moving forward, because I just tend to be a little reluctant, other than, again, the topic and the conversation is important.
I certainly don't want this bill to die. So if we have to defer, if we don't have the support, and if there needs to be more discussion about how this moves forward, then I certainly would like, you know, because I think we're all on the same page. I think we all want the best for our city, but there are things that, you know, we should be discussing, like, you know, we're 2020 now. What about 2050 or 2060 and economic development? And where do we see the city positioned in terms of, you know, attracting new businesses, and how do we come out of COVID in a safe, effective way? So public health is really important. And when I say public health, I don't just mean crime. I'm talking about public health, you know, people being healthy psychologically and physically, creating a lot more linkages from our trails and things like that, that actually position us in a way that we come out of this in a much more healthy and sustainable way. And sustainability, our budget, you know, I mean, we've gotten hits in our budget. So there are a lot of issues that, you know, because of our council rules, sometimes there's only 4 of us that can talk at a time. And, you know, things move forward, and yes, we all do our homework, but are they dealing with sort of the overarching gaps in our policy? And that's what this committee really is designed to look at.
And if I can follow up, Madam President, I agree with you 100%. That's why I was saying that before we kind of move this amendment forward, it would be great to be able to defer it even just a couple of weeks to the next meeting, to kind of just put a few of our heads together to see if we can, you know, achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Well, would you like to make a motion then to defer, Councillor, and then we can defer this? I would ask that we defer. Let's see. Yeah, maybe to not our next meeting, but the meeting after that, April 5th. That way councilors have an opportunity And if there are amendments that counselors have that they'd like to suggest, then we have an opportunity to look at those.
Yes, I'd make a motion for a deferral for not this next meeting, but the next meeting, whatever date that is.
Okay, that would be April 5th, Counselor. Thank you. We have a motion. We have several seconds. Counselor Sena, Counselor Davis. And the motion for deferral trumps everything else. So we will take a roll call vote on that. Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan.
Madam President, I wasn't sure if maybe there were a couple of people that wanted to say anything, or because I know that Counselor Sena had her hand up for a while. Or
oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Sena. I thought that was a second as well. Counselor Sena, did you want to say something before we take that vote?
Yes, Madam President, I just wanted to clarify, crime is not just limited to public safety. It is one of the things within the Public Safety Committee, but it's not limited to. It's also emergency medical care, alcohol and drug abuse, fire and police. But I just wanted to note it is pretty encompassing, but I look forward to the discussion as we defer this. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Sena. Appreciate that. Okay, I don't see any other hands for discussion, so we will move on to that vote. Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan.
yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on the deferral.
Okay, counselors, thank you for that. That deferral passes on a 9-0 vote, and thank you for indulging with me on that. I'm going to go back to our regular agenda, and our next order of business is our general public comments. And I'm going to read into the record some information provided by our council staff. Hello, for those joining us to provide live public comment. As we stated earlier, we also received written comments that were distributed to all of our counselors in advance of today's meeting. Members of the public will be able to address the council if they have signed up for live public comment per the rules published on the agenda and our website on Friday. Speakers will be moved into the meeting room 2 at a time. They will remain muted with their camera off until they are called upon to speak, at which point they can turn on their camera, unmute themselves, and they will have 1.5 minutes to provide comments to the council. After that, they will again be muted and return to be an attendee of the Zoom webinar. Here are the public comment ground rules. Each participant has 1.5 minutes to present. Comments are to be addressed to counselors only through the council president. Any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the Zoom webinar. There will be a 1.5 minute time limit. The timer will start once you begin speaking. Then the Zoom moderator, Mr. Julian Moya, will let you know when your time is up. Mr. Moya, will you please call the first speaker?
Thank you, Madam President. Our first speaker is Francesco Artist, followed by Dr. Joe Valles. Mr. Artist, if you want to, feel free to turn your video, unmute yourself, and your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Madam President, members of City Council, whether one believes in broken window theory or not, we at Fresco Studio feel that visible signs of broken glass, things like crime, antisocial behavior, civil disorder, etc., is not the best path that leads to an environment that encourages less crime and less disorder, affecting the overall public health. Some refer to it as decluttering, some call it feng shui. We all know how good that makes us feel. It signals to locals and visitors alike that the community has it together somehow. As opposed to when we find ourselves driving through a bad neighborhood, cluttered with illegal dumping, graffiti, trash, abandoned structures, and yes, broken windows, hence the name. We would like to applaud the members of City Council who joined to form the Illegal Dumping Partnership, made up of so many heavy hitters. It feels like the Justice League, and all that's missing is the spandex and the capes. We look forward to the unanimous representation of the City Council, spandex optional, to be part of the solution to this citywide problem. Those who may see this as a cosmetic improvement may not be looking at the bigger picture. This initiative holds all kinds of promise that will create favorable ripples in all facets of Burqueños' lives. Thanks again, everyone. Much success.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Joe Valles. Please feel free to turn your video back on, and your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you. Greetings to you. And I speak in support of City Council Resolution R21-134. I've testified at the Open Space Advisory Board, the GFO, and LUPS on behalf of my neighborhood association, the Executive Council of the West Side Coalition, and the Inter-Coalition Panel of Neighborhood Associations from throughout the city. You just need to know that there is a groundswell of support for this bill throughout the city. And I also want to repeat, this property happens to be on the west side, but it's not just a west side issue. It's a citywide issue, in fact, and indeed it's an issue for the state as well. I'd like to thank Councilor Sena, Councilor Borrego for bringing this forward, the City Council, its boards and committees for their positive response towards this goal. And I just want to say that this is the stuff of building legends for both landowners and elected officials. I thank you all, but also for the grassroots folk who've given enormously of their time, efforts, and legal finances necessary to keep this on the front burner. It's that important. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Valles. Our next speaker is Tasha Young, followed by Renee Horvath. Ms. Young, feel free to turn your video on, unmute yourself, and your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Madam President, members of the council, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, my name is Tasha Young. I'm speaking today as Vice Chair of the City Open Space Advisory Board. I did send you a copy of this statement earlier. It's just one paragraph, but it's pretty dense. I'm not sure I made your 1 o'clock deadline, but I did send that to you. The Open Space Advisory Board is very grateful for the opportunity to express our unanimous support for the acquisition of the pool property and our concerns regarding the Open Space Trust Fund. We did that at both the February 8th meeting of the Finance and Government Committee and at the February 10th meeting of Land Use Planning and Zoning. On February 18th, the Open Space Advisory Board met for the first time since the introduction of R21-134. At that time, on February 18th, the whole board had an opportunity to review the resolution and the committee amendment passed by the Land Use Planning Committee. The board, again, the Open Space Board, wants to express its enthusiastic support for the purchase of the pool property. And we strongly and unanimously recommend passage of R21-134 as amended by the LUPS Committee, Amendment Number 1. We renew our commitment to preserving the Open Space Trust Fund to ensure access to open space for future residents of Albuquerque. And we request that any future legislation concerning the Open Space Trust Fund be presented to the Open Space Advisory Board for our review and discussion. And finally, we stand ready to partner with and advise the city in any way we can in the ongoing purchase of major public open space. Thank you for the opportunity to make this statement today.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Our next speaker is Renee Horvath. Please feel free to turn on your video, unmute yourself, and your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee Horvath, and I live here on the west side, and I really strongly want to thank you all for your help and your effort in supporting this very important and sponsored by Councilor Sena and Councilor Borrego to put the pool property on the acquisition list. This does meet the criteria, open space to be on the acquisition list, and this property is very valuable because it's right adjacent to the Rio Grande and the wetland. And wetland is very significant wetland within the city limits, which needs that protection. And it is a wildlife preserve. It has huge amounts of wildlife. So this will showcase, it will protect and buffer it. And I do want to thank you all. And I do want to thank the mayor's office, the mayor himself for his support, the mayor's office for looking at various funding sources so they don't have to touch the trust fund. And also city council, who have been generous to help add to the funding to help purchase this property. I think it's my understanding that we've come up with the funding, I hope, to finalize the purchase to add to the state funds that have already been accumulated. And I just want to show support for adding it to the priority list. And I do want to thank everyone's efforts to find the funding to do so without having to touch the trust fund. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Horvath. Madam President, we had one other person sign up to speak, but they have not shown up at the meeting, so that will conclude public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Moya, and thank you to all of our speakers today. We had one other person signed up to speak and does not seem to be in the Zoom waiting room. So with that, we will move forward. Counselors, our next order of business is our economic development discussion, and we have none tonight. So we will move on to administration questions and answers. And I only had one request from Counselor Gibson. Counselor Gibson, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you. Would you
President.
like to proceed?
I do have a question for, I think this is going to the Director of Family and Community Services, Director Pierce. There you are. Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So my question is about the 768 helpline. And I know you're, very familiar with this. We talked, or at least texted earlier today. And the fact that this was a pilot program that had established a dedicated number for individualized assistance to the down and out folks who needed help, as well as homeless individuals and families. The assistance that the line offered was more than just a referral line, but it also connected callers directly with service providers. The call takers had pertinent information at their fingertips to answer many of the commonly asked questions. And they were trained, and they were trained, both the volunteers and paid staff were trained. And then when that contract expired, family indicated that the calls were being directed to 311 and that navigators were trained and would be trained in helping people experiencing issues around homelessness, and they would be the ones taking those calls. We have discovered, though, that 768 HELP now refers to 242 COPS to manage these types of calls. And actually, when the calls are not answered, it goes to the voicemail, 311 voicemail, and that voicemail is set up for, to give information about buses and the zoo's hours and things like that. It's not set up for 768 HELP. So I'm just hoping that you can kind of enlighten me to any plan that we might have to reestablish that line as a working helpline for the homeless and train the specialists or navigators to do so.
Council President Borrego and City Councilor Gibson, thank you for that question. So through our discussions, the setup on that 768 HELP didn't ultimately have the impact that I think we thought it would in terms of getting direct assistance immediately for someone in need. And so that contract with Agora ended the end of January, and then the line was transferred to 311. And following up with the director of ETI, that line is, that is where the line is going. It's not transferred to 242 COPS. And so 311 has our list of potential services for someone in need. Now, what our hope is we've begun conversations with the Coalition to End Homelessness about what it would mean to make that line more effective. Because I think, as we all know, the 768 help line has been promoted, it's on billboards, and that's great. And that's why we wanted to make sure the phone was answered by 311. So we've begun conversations with the coalition, and where we think that could be helpful, a lot of those questions were about housing. And given what the coalition does, whether it's talking about vouchers or getting somebody on a housing list. Now, we haven't executed that contract yet. We're in negotiation with the coalition. And the other thing that we've got in our state is the NMCAL line, the New Mexico Crisis and Access line. And the good thing about that is a 24/7 line available actually across the state. So that is our current plan at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I would just add that it did have an audience before the contract ended at Agora, and it was helping people. We did, when we set that up, we did look at I can't remember what it's called, the line that you talked about, that statewide. And
yes.
Yeah, so this is different. That's more of a referral line, or is that the one where it's like sort of a peer support line?
There are, excuse me, City Council President Borrego and Councilor Gibson. There is a peer-to-peer component to that, but the 185 NM Crisis also is available if somebody were having suicidal thoughts, if they were having behavioral health concerns, grief. It's somebody available 24/7 to really address somebody who is in need of help.
So I think a really good home for it really could be the Coalition to End Homelessness, and so I would certainly support that, and add any of the help that I or my office could offer. But this is something that we don't really have right now, or we didn't have. We have it now, but it's kind of just creeping along a little bit. So I would hope that we can do something. And what about the navigators? We had talked about navigators. Is that off the list of possibilities?
Council President Borrego and Councilor Gibson. So there are navigators that 311 knows are available. They're called financial navigators. However, they are available, and 311 knows that if that's an appropriate pathway for the person calling, and they can help them sometimes with rental assistance and other components as well.
Yeah.
So that they are a piece of that mix in the way that I know everyone knows is 311 knows what different departments, what resources they are there, and this financial navigator that Winter Torres is working with is another resource, and 311 is aware of that and is using them if it makes sense.
Until we do, can we at least set up the outgoing voicemail so people who are calling in for 768 help reasons aren't getting the outgoing message for zoo hours and help with bus schedules?
Councilor Borrego and Councilor Gibson, I will work with Director Osterloh, who I know is on this meeting as well, and see what we can do. So, and I did see that note that you forwarded to me from a constituent, and the concern there when they did get that message from 311. So I can certainly follow up with Director Osterloh and see what can be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson, and thank you, Director Pierce. We will move to Councillor Bassan, who has her hand up.
Thank you, Madam President. My apologies for the lack of advance notice. I got an email from a constituent today. This is for APD, if they're available.
Is someone still available from APD?
Council President Borrego, well, we're texting. I see they're still on the Zoom, but just might be having a little trouble getting their video and audio back on.
Thank you.
Councillor Bassan, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Well, I can, Madam President, as long as they'll be the ones to make sure to hear it at the same time, because it is a constituent question to them and on my behalf as well. Commander Barker, is that you?
Yes, ma'am, we are here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, so I know that we've been working about speeding and we've been making some really good progress, I think, in the city in regards to that. I did have a constituent email come in today that has indicated, and this is a very consistent pattern, and I know that I've reached out to Commander Brown regularly. I do plan on reaching out to Chief Medina again, but I just really wonder if there is a way to make sure that on Sunday nights at 10 p.m., if there's any available resources, someone can go to Balloon Fiesta Parkway or Pan American near Glendale and Florence. There is consistent drag racing. APD is called 242 Cops is called every Sunday night. It's almost to the point where, from my understanding, it seems like this is something that is so consistent there, it's unavoidable. So I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to at least start by mitigating that one instance. And I realize that this is going to go to the bigger problem of it spreads out, right? If we can break it up there, I know it's going to go further in the city, but literally from what I'm understanding from constituents, every Sunday night, 10 p.m. in that area, this is an ongoing issue. If there's anything we can do, I would be so grateful, please.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair and Councilor Bassan, thank you for the question. I will absolutely work with Commander Brown to ensure that we have TAC plans and focused efforts at that specific area, and I will follow up with you with the outcome of those TAC plans as well.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Rael.
Madam President and Councilor Bassan, let me ask the question just simply because we've been around this conversation for some time. We had installed some speed humps along Balloon Fiesta Parkway. Are your constituents saying that that is not helping with that portion of the corridor, or do we need to explore a different solution?
Madam President, may I respond?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rael. Yes, those speed humps are indeed helping. Thank you very, very much. Of course, going back to my earlier comment, once we move something from one area to the next, but what I guess is being reported is that approximately minimally 20 cars every Sunday night at 10 p.m. are lining up now along Pan American. And I recognize that now we're getting closer and closer to the interstate and everything, but between and near Glendale and Florence, even on the east side, they're lining up to race and they're starting to move down San Pedro. So I just feel, and I think the constituents feel, that between the noise and the fact that it's Sunday night at 10 p.m. and the fact that it's consistent and they can count on it now, there should be something, it should be like an easy pick for us to be able to minimize as far as that is concerned, at least from our perspective. And that's what I'm wondering, how can we help with that?
Madam President and Councilor Bassan, let me intervene with the New Mexico Department of Transportation. The entire, as you know, the entire frontage road system along the interstate managed by the DOT, not by the city. And thus the state police also has some jurisdiction over that corridor. Not that APD doesn't assist and doesn't help, but let us look at that as well and see what we might be able to do to help with that issue. I drive that corridor right about 10 o'clock every night on Sundays, simply from visiting my mother back in the northern part of the state. So I will make sure that we get someone out there to look at that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan. Councilor Senna has a question.
Thank you, Madam President. And I know it's being addressed, but I did want to extend my appreciation to Director Brennan Williams in regards to the gentleman that lives off of 72nd. I'm having tech issues. I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me. Can you?
We can hear you, Councilor, but you were frozen there for a minute.
Okay, well, thank you. But the gentleman that lives off of 72nd Street who had his wall crashed into and was issued a notice, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I was told that he would be given an extension because the gentleman that lives there, Mr. Romero, actually follows through and puts up his wall every time it gets crashed into. And I know that we're working on putting a barrier there, but he was given another notice as to not comply with the February 25th date. And I hope that Mr. Williams will certainly follow up with the gentleman, as I don't believe it's certainly not a fault of his own that his wall was crashed into, and really it's driver behavior for not slowing down. Even that road being a school zone, and it gets back to really behavior and this education that we certainly need to push and stress. But I do hope that Mr. Brennan Williams is following up with Mr. Romero on getting that addressed, because he should not have gotten that notice in the first place. But I also hope that now that he has another notice that he didn't comply, and he has always complied in putting up another wall, that matter get addressed.
Madam President and Councilor Senna, I know that Brennan was on earlier, but I will convey that to him and we'll make sure that he gets the information.
Thank you, Mr. Rael. Doesn't appear that there are any other questions from our councilors regarding the administration. So we will move on because we still have a public hearing tonight. We will move on to our journal, and Councilor Gibson, I will defer this to you.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move approval of the February 17th journal.
Is there a second? Councilor Bassan, thank you for that second. So we will move our vote. And I hear myself reading. I hope I'm not. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Senna.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Thank you, 9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. We will move on to our communications and introductions. I'll just remind councilors to mute yourselves because there was a little bit of reverberation on that particular item and when we were voting. So are there any changes to the letter of introduction this evening?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay, Councilor Bassan, I didn't see your hand up, but go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilor Bassan, you have a couple.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R138 and placing it on the March 15th council agenda for action. R138 is authorizing the giving of notices for bids for the sale of City of Albuquerque general obligation bonds consisting of 22,960,000 general obligation general purpose bonds, Series 2021A, and 27,980,000 general obligations refunding bonds, Series 2021B.
There is a second by Counselor Jones. Thank you, Counselor Jones. Is there any discussion? Counselors, we will move on to the vote. And I need a 2/3 of our counselors to vote on it. Oh, Counselor Davis. Did you have a question?
I do, Madam President. I just want to make a comment. I won't rehash the issue. We did a committee of whole, but I do think this is not quite ready to come to full council yet. I think it should be back in the committee, since the number of counselors, including myself and some of the sponsors, indicated that they intended to amend it further. And so I think it'd be better to suit it there. For that reason, I would vote no and hope to leave this in committee until we have a chance. I realize all 9 of us in one room or another in Zoom doesn't make a big difference, but it does send a message that this is the final bill versus the one we're still working on. So thank you, Madam President.
Counselor Davis, this is for late introduction. So there's still opportunity, I believe, for amendments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam President. Yes, ma'am, I understand that. But I do not believe it's appropriate to introduce it to the full council yet. I think it should remain in committee, and so that would be my vote.
Thank you. Counselor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. This was a request from me by the administration, so I would like to hear from them as to why they per se requested it to be for late introduction and not go to this committee.
Is there anyone from the administration present that would like to address this?
Madam President and Councillor Davis, I think there is some misunderstanding. This particular item is about the bond sale, the second part of the bond sale. And this is just a routine request that we need to meet the deadline to sell the bond around first week of April, and that's why we are requesting this.
This is not for the 2021.
This is not for the CIP 2021 that you had been discussing in the COW meeting. This is different. 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I appreciate that, Madam President. I apologize. I misread the staff report, and I appreciate that, Mr. Bacta. So thanks for that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bacta. Thank you, counselors. So if there are no further questions, we will move on to the vote. Ms. Ortega?
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Muted, I'm sorry. That passes on a 9-0 vote, counselors. So we will move on to our next item. Counselor Bassan?
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing O53 and placing it on the March 15th council agenda for action. O53 is authorizing the issuance and sale of City of Albuquerque general obligation bonds in 2 series in a collective par amount not to exceed $42,960,000, consisting of $22,960,000 general purpose general obligation bonds, Series 2021A, and $20 million short-term general obligation bonds, Series 2021C, authorized at an election of the city held on November 15th, 2019 to finance projects relating to various public facilities.
Thank you, Counselor Bassan. I have a second from Counselor Sena. Are there any questions regarding this introduction? It appears not. So we also need need 2/3 of the counselors present to pass this particular introduction. Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
Counselor Benton.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. So we will go back to Councilor Gibson to move the letter of introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval of the letter of introduction.
I have a second by Councilor Sena and Councilor Bassan. Thank you, councilors. So with that, if there's no further discussion, we will move on to our vote. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. The letter of introduction passes with a 9-0 vote. We will move on to our reports of committees. Councilor Sena.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Safety Committee met on Tuesday, February 23rd, and reports out the following items. In the matter of R136, that it do pass. In the matter of M9, that it do pass and be acted on at the meeting at which it is reported. I make a motion to accept the committee report.
Thank you, Councilor Sena. I have a second by Councilor Bassan. Any discussion? If not, we will take a vote on that. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Sena. Excuse me, Pena.
Yes.
Thank you. Sena.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That committee report passes on a 9-0. We will move on to Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Madam President. The Committee of the Whole met on Thursday, February 25th, and reports out the following item. In the matter of R128, that it do pass as substituted as amended. I make a motion to accept the committee report.
Thank you, Councilor Pena. You have a second by Councilor Bassan. Are there any questions? If not, I need a vote, Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
No.
Councilor Davis.
No.
Councilor Gibson.
No.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
No.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
Motion passes on a 5-4 vote.
Thank you, councilors. That motion passes on a 5-4 vote. So with that, we will move on to deferrals and withdrawals this evening. Councilors, are there any deferrals or withdrawals at this time? Councilor Sena and Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. In the matter of O39, enacting the Healthy Families and Workplaces Ordinance to require that employers in the city provide paid leave to employees, I move deferral until April 5th.
Councilor Bassan, second. So I need a vote on that deferral. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Harris. Councilor
Yes.
Jones. Councilor Harris, was that you?
Yes.
Yes, on the deferral?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on the deferral.
Thank you, councilors. O39 is deferred until April 5th on a vote of 9-0. So with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Councilors, are there any changes to the consent agenda? And I'm just going to read it into the record. For the individuals on tonight's consent agenda who are being appointed to serve on a board or commission and who may be watching from home, we thank you for your willingness to serve. Councilor Benton, did you have your hand up for a reason?
Yes, please, Madam President. I just wanted to acknowledge we've got a whole slew of District 2 volunteers for committees, and I wanted to give a shout out to them. Don McIver from Silver Hill, joining the Transportation Advisory Board. Deacon Robert V. Hill from Bareilles, serving on the Housing and Economic Development Committee. Robert Nelson, a reappointment to that same committee. And Margaret Nelson from the Reynolds Edition, also a reappointment to the HNEDC. And finally, Robert Cialone to the Affordable Housing Commission. I want to just thank those District 2 residents.
Thank you, Councillor Benton, and thank you to all of those individuals. Any other councillors wishing to speak? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. Councillor Gibson.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
And I have a second by Councillor Sena. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Sena, I need a vote. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Yes. Thank you, councillors. The consent agenda passes on a 9-0 vote. We will move on to our announcements this evening. Councillor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. There will be a Finance and Government Operations Committee meeting on Monday, March 8th at 3 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor Bassan. Councillor Sena.
There will be a Public Safety Committee meeting on Tuesday, March 9th at 3 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor Sena. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. The Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, March 10th is canceled.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Pena.
Thank you, Madam President. There will be an Intergovernmental Legislative Relations Committee meeting on Friday, March 5th and Friday, March 12th at 4 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor Pena. So with that, we will move on to item number 12, which is our public hearings. Mr. Melendres, are you on? I just want to make sure that he's on the call. There he
Madam
is.
President, I am on. I apologize. For some
Thank
reason, it
you
takes a
so
second
much.
for my camera to turn
Okay,
on.
so this is a public hearing, AC-20-15. Stephen Hernandez, agent for RM 4102-405 LLC, appeals the zoning hearing examiner's decision. And I believe that there are 3 different portions to this. Actually, there are 3 different hearings, but they are all related. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Melendres to explain these to all of our counselors. Thank you, Mr. Melendres.
Thank you, Madam President, councilors. These are 3 related matters. They deal with 3 adjoining parcels located at the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Edith Boulevard. The 3 parcels contain a site that currently houses the Albuquerque Charter Academy. It's a school for high school aged students. The property is not owned by the academy, it is privately owned. And the property owner for that site is requesting that a variance be granted in order to erect a fence, a 6-foot tall fence, effectively at the back of sidewalk along Martin Luther King and Edith Boulevard. In that particular area on that site, the maximum height of a fence is limited to 3 feet. And so that is why the property owner came in asking for a variance from that limitation in order to allow that 6-foot high fence. The fence would be, from the record, it appears to be a wrought iron fence, panel fence that would be erected all along those properties. Again, 3 properties, 1 application was submitted for each property, and that's why you have 3 appeals before you. The facts and requests are exactly the same. We'll only need 3 motions in order to dispose of the matter. So this request came to the city's zoning hearing examiner, and the zoning hearing examiner applied the test for variance in the IDO, which requires that a showing be made that special circumstances are unique to the property, that that justify the variance. In other words, there's something unique about this particular property because of its physical characteristics that make a variance warranted as compared to other properties that are similarly situated. The applicant proposed that crime and vagrancy in the area justified the fence for security purposes. However, the zoning hearing examiner found that those allegations, to the extent applicable to this site, were not necessarily unique to the property as far as a physical characteristic, which would be otherwise required to justify the variance. That zoning hearing examiner ultimately denied the variance requests, and that decision was appealed to the city council through the land use hearing officer. The land use hearing officer, in reviewing the zoning hearing examiner's decision, determined that the zoning hearing examiner should be upheld. The decision was not arbitrary and that the rationale was sound. The land use hearing officer also analyzed the concept of a self-imposed hardship to the extent that the fact that the site houses a charter school could be considered as part of the zoning. That is a use option amongst many, and so it appears that it would constitute a self-imposed type of issue that does not justify a variance. The parties are not here for purposes of this hearing tonight. You're only considering whether or not to accept or reject the recommendation of the land use hearing officer. If you have questions, I'll do my best to try to answer those questions directly from the record. If I can't, we can hold a full hearing on this matter at a later time so you can hear from the parties. For now, your options are to accept or reject the hearing officer's recommendation. If you accept that recommendation, then the variances will be denied. I'll stand for questions.
So, Mr. Melendres, we have basically AC 2015, AC 2016, and AC 2017, which are all by the same appellant. And we have to hear them each separately, or can we ask questions together?
Madam President, I think we can take up the hearing all together. The same questions will apply to each application. So we can discuss them all together. It's essentially the same request. The only distinction is that there are lot lines designating 3 properties there, but it is all the same request. The only thing is we'll just need 3 motions.
Okay, thank you. So do we have questions? We do have questions. Councilor Gibson and then Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I really don't have a question, but I was going to make the motion to accept LUHO recommendations and findings.
Okay, Councilor Gibson, we will have we have a couple of seconds. Councilor Bassan, Councilor Jones, and Councilor Benton. But we also had some people in the queue for questions. So if you would keep your hands raised for the question. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Melendres, when I looked up the property, and it probably is going to be because it's the 3 different locations and parcels, but one thing that we're reading is that it's Edith and Dr. Martin Luther King, but then when I look up the property at 405, it's really just 1 west. And I just want to know that it is truly on the corner and moving west is the 3 parcels, or is there that doctor's office, something or other on the corner, and then, or did that get taken over? I just want to make sure that in my head, I'm accurate with what I'm about to vote on.
Helpful if I unmuted myself. Thank you, Madam President, Councilor Bassan. The record is the official sort of holder of the site location, and I have reviewed the record, and it does encompass the property at the corner along Martin Luther King and Edith.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Melendres. And then, Madam President, if I can just add my one comment.
Go ahead, Councilor.
While I can understand, the necessary concern for students at this facility, I think that I cannot see how there's any capricious, arbitrary, or fraudulent activity that has happened with this. And I know that that is what we need to decide on. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm getting it out there that in everything here, I want them to be safe, all of these students, but for the technicalities, I'm not going to be able to vote for it.
Any other questions, Counselor Benton?
Mr. Melendres, so what was part of the argument was, or the property owner's argument was the functioning of the school on that site, correct?
Madam President, Councilor Benton, the property owner suggested that the fact that it housed a charter school would constitute a special circumstance for purposes of the variance test. And that was the extent of that issue was raised.
And across the street to the east is Longfellow Elementary School, which to my recollection does not have a fence in front and on the corner.
Madam
May have
President.
one in the backyard.
Madam President, Councilor Benton, you're exactly right. I'm looking at page 53 of the record right now, and it depicts exactly what you're saying, which is that Longfellow is across the street and the fence does not exist up near the street, just around the backyard.
Thank you.
And a fence at this location, at this zoning, would be permitted to the same extent that it's permitted at Longfellow if it were in an analogous location.
Any other questions, Counselor Jones?
Actually, if there are no more questions, Madam President, I would like to make a motion.
Counselor Jones, Counselor Gibson has already made a motion and there was a second, but you're welcome to make the motion on AC 2016 because we're going to need 3 motions.
Thank you, Madam President. I was listening to something else and not paying attention. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to have to, if there are no further questions regarding this discussion on 3 public hearings here, AC 2015, AC 2016, and AC 2017, we are going to need 3 separate votes on these. So Councilor Gibson, you made a motion on AC 2015 and it was seconded by Councilor Sena. So if there's no further discussion on all 3 of these, then we will move on to our votes. So I don't see anyone in the queue. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
I muted myself. Yes.
Thank you. 9-0.
Thank you. That is AC 20-15 and that passes on a 9-0 vote. Councilor Jones, you're welcome to make this motion on AC 2016.
Thank you so much for that opportunity. I would like to make a motion to accept the LUHO recommendations and findings on AC 2016.
And you have a second by Councilor Benton. Thank you for that second, Councilor Benton. So we will move on to Ms. Ortega on the vote for AC 2016.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. Now we will move on to AC 2017. Ms. Ortega. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to accept the LUHO recommendation and findings.
And you have a second by Councilor Benton. Ms. Ortega.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Councilor Benton.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Gibson.
Yes.
Councilor Harris.
Yes.
Councilor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Pena.
Yes.
Councilor Sena.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We will move on to our approvals, which there are none. We will move on to our final actions. And our first order of business is item B, which is Councilor Benton and Davis R127.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll move a do pass on R127.
We have a motion for a do pass, and we have a second by Councillor Davis. Is that right, Councillor Davis? Is that what your hand is up for? Thank you. Okay, we have one amendment to this particular issue. Are there any questions regarding the original bill? If not, we will move on to what we will call floor amendment number 1. And this is, oh, I'm sorry, somebody does have a question. Councillor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that this seems like a good idea to make sure to do this, and I realize what we see in the script here, but I do want to actually, when we do get to this, even if we defer or whatever, to cover and come back and circle around. I believe that the administration or Director Montoya was even going to kind of inform us on what monies and kind of what a funding is allowed right now and how much excess we do have that we could be seeing roll over. It was my understanding that there might not be too much right now, but maybe someday there will be.
Councillor Ben, did you have a comment as well?
I do, but I'll defer to listening to the administration, I suppose, on the
Mr. Kaiser?
Hi, good evening, Madam President, members of council. So one of the questions Councilor Bassan brought up in regards to the financial portions for what parking is as we brought up in the last meeting, there really just isn't anything in the excess funding. What we're trending towards already for this fiscal year is going in the red, $98,000. And this is just, this is based off the second quarter estimate. Right now we have more expenses than we do have revenue coming in, and that's to keep up our structures, to ensure that we're providing a good place for our customers to come and visit and make sure that it's safe. If we continue to trend in the direction that the parking division's going with its financials into the next fiscal year, we'll be looking at about a 1.7 million in the red at this point. Some of the stuff that I brought up in the last meeting dealing with the excess revenue is there just is not any excess revenue in parking at all, and there's not going to be for the next 5-10 years, based off of the needs within the parking division to ensure that our structures and technology and everything within the parking division is kept up to where it needs to be.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Councillor Benton, you have your hand up, and Councillor Bassan, and then Councillor Davis.
Madam President, I'm sorry for the interruption. Mine was to follow up, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. If I can ask the sponsors too, then hearing that, and this is what, hearing this in the last meeting and then hearing this now, what is this going to do for us if we were to pass this resolution?
I'd like to ask Ms. Yara to speak to it. I mean, they have had excesses in the past, so this is a prediction. I'm sure it may be accurate or maybe not, but I think to me it raises the question even further of why this would be an enterprise fund, or whether we should be thinking of it, which is I was also going to move my amendment that you have before you was added to the packet today, to really tie the parking policy and funding and administration to metropolitan redevelopment, which I think is a very good fit. And but yeah, I mean, Ms. Yara may speak to this, but I believe that in the past we have had reversions, or would have had reversions had there not been an enterprise fund.
Ms. Yara, go ahead.
Yes, Madam President and councilors. So there have been situations in the past where the parking fund had actually what we call a fund balance remaining after the year. Usually they do start shoring up that money for capital improvements. We call it their working capital balance. to the extent that they would use that for improvements of their facilities or installing new facilities. I think the sponsors were concerned that that money was remaining in that fund unused, and perhaps there was some movement to raise fees, and that would of course increase the revenues going into that fund. However, as far as the requirement to have something reported in an enterprise fund, the government accounting standards just really dictate that a government can choose where it wants to record certain revenues. However, when activities are tied to non-general obligation debt, so revenue bonds, they do have to remain segregated in an enterprise fund. That also is also true for any revenues that have either a regulatory requirement or an internal policy of just basically breaking even. So they raise enough money to support operations. So our situation here is that the parking fund is funded by revenue bonds in some cases. I don't think there are any outstanding bonds right now. And there could be, there's opportunity to instill a policy that would say this is only for the purpose of providing the service and we're not trying to make a profit here. So all of that said, there is a case that if in an off year, there are excess funds in the parking fund that aren't being used for capital improvements or operations, that generally those monies can be transferred to the general fund, so long as it's not a consistent practice. That's just based on some general research that I did. So I think that the ordinance, the bill is written, is allowed under the accounting rules, and I think it's up to the council to decide whether they would like, on those years when there's an excess, that money be moved now, of course, to the proposed metropolitan redevelopment. So I think Mr. Montoya and Mr. Kaiser can speak more to what they expect, but it has been in the past, we have had situations where there's excess revenue.
Thank you, Ms. Yara. So we have a follow-up by Councillor Benton and then a question by Councillor Davis.
I'll defer to Councillor Davis and then
Councillor Davis.
Madam President, I just want to make the point, and I appreciate, I think I heard someone mention this before. I think the real justification behind this bill, and I know my colleague has an amendment that we need to just move and we can maybe come back to all this after. But I think we want to remember that the point here is that this really came out of a conversation with the community and in front of the council about due notice on parking. For those of you, it's mostly Councillor Benton and I, a little in Councillor Gibson's district, where we have neighborhood parking fees, and we deal with parking enforcement and stronger enforcement, I might say, a renewed enforcement for some of the too many inches from the curb sort of enforcement. I think we want to be sure that we're not sending a message that we're policing for profit, even if policing is parking tickets. That's supposed to be in furtherance of a public good, which is getting people moving in these economic areas and these business areas. And while Mr. Kaiser has a good point that we may not be making a lot of revenue out of this next coming year, all indications are the community's ready to come back, that businesses are ready for visitors to come back. And in Nob Hill and in Central Avenue districts in particular in Old Town, those parking meters and the parking structures are a big part of making that work. And so there's a real opportunity for this to be there. So we ought to get the system right first to be sure people don't think we're just writing tickets to make a profit. I appreciate the administration very much with their, I don't know exactly what you call it, but their program where during the month of March, you can waive all your doubled and tripled fines and fees if you'll just go pay your old parking tickets and get them off your record so you don't get a parking warrant and have to pay those extra fees. I think all those things are positive. But at some point, the world's going to be back together again, and they're going to be doing their job. I just don't think we ought to be sending the message that there's a financial incentive for them to be writing more tickets. Instead, they ought to be used like a customer service model, like every other part of our city government. And it kind of aligns with the way the administration wanted to propose the new community safety department, where our parking enforcement officers could be helpers and not necessarily just enforcement personnel. So I think that's the purpose behind this bill, and would encourage your support when we get there. And I think the councilor's amendment helps us get there as well.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. So we have moved the original bill, but we haven't moved the amendment. Are there any other questions, Councilor Benton?
I was just raising my hand to move the amendment, Madam President. And just for clarity for everyone, because this amendment would change the title, this would also move the consideration of the bill to our next meeting.
So I just wanted to mention that I support the amendment because, and Councilor, do you want to move the amendment?
Yes, please. I'll move
Yeah, I need a
amendment
second.
number 1.
I'll second the amendment. Councilor Sena also seconded the amendment. And I just wanted to mention, because I did used to run the redevelopment agency, I think it's important that that revenue, much of our parking structures are in redevelopment areas, with the exception of the parking structure at the airport. And there are development agreements that are tied to those parking structures. So for that reason, I support your amendment, Councilor. So is there any other discussion regarding the amendment? If not, we will take a vote on that amendment. Ms. Ortega?
Councilor Bassan?
Yes.
Councilor Benton?
Yes.
Councilor Davis?
Yes.
Councilor Gibson?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Councilor Jones?
Yes.
Councilor Pena?
Yes.
Councilor Sena?
Yes.
Councilor Borrego?
Yes.
9-0 on floor amendment 1.
Thank you. That floor amendment does pass on a 9-0 vote. So we will go back, councilors, to the original bill, which is R127. And is there any further discussion regarding the original bill itself? I have a question, Councilor Benton or Councilor Davis, regarding the bill and transferring that parking excess, if there is parking excess at some point in time. When are you expecting that? Or have you thought about when that excess might be available? It seemed like it would be a while.
End of the audit. It would have to be after the auditors finish their job.
Ms. Yara is telling me that it would be after the audit. Councilor Benton, did you want to respond?
That was my understanding. And yeah, again, I'm not disputing that Mr. Kaiser's prognostication on it, but so it would be a matter of policy and established procedure if it were to exceed in some future year. I just wanted to point out, Madam President, that in some cities, parking policy and I think even enforcement is under the planning department. And it is interwoven, right? I mean, a parking space has been estimated, an on-street parking space, for instance, has been estimated to be worth in real estate value around $30,000, even though it's public property and it's not going to be given to anyone in particular. But that it does help in many urban situations. It helps the businesses. Clearly, that's something that we're always talking about downtown with the business owners. So, I think to the extent there is any excess available funds to keep it in MR is really a good fit. And maybe it's further discussion we need to have, not to pull it out of DMD or anything, but that we And we have had those kind of discussions, for instance, with regard to the downtown walkability study, and some of the studies have been done with regard to using new technology, of course, which we really appreciate. So just wanted to clarify that and urge your support.
Thank you, Councilor. Is that your closing statement then?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, it looks like one of our councilors has a question before you make that final closing statement. Councilor Bassan.
Mine's more of a clarification, Madam President. Do we have to make a motion for deferral because of the title change?
It appears so. Would you like to make that motion, Councilor Bassan?
Sure. If that's all right with Councilor Benton, I move deferral until March 15th.
Okay, and I need a second. Councilor Davis raises his hand.
I'm fine with that, Madam President. Yeah, I think that, as I stated earlier, because of the change in title, I think it's correct that we do need to move it to the next meeting.
Okay, so we are going to defer that to April 5th?
March 15th.
March 15th. And we will go to Ms. Ortega on the vote.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on the deferral as amended.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote to defer to April 15th. So, I'm sorry, March 15th. I'm ahead of myself here. We handled item number C. So, councilors, we will go on to item number D. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Madam President. R133 is commissioning an update to the 2014 Social Service Gap Analysis Study and adjusting fiscal year 2021 general fund appropriations to provide funding for that purpose. I move a do pass.
Amphetamine and numerous drugs.
There is a second by Councilor Sena on that particular item. Are there questions, councilors?
Madam President?
Councilor Davis. Councilor Davis, we can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm sorry, Madam President. I was saying Councilor Gibson beat me to it. I think she just couldn't get her hand, but she was waving at us.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'll make it quick. I just wanted to ask the sponsor. I appreciate very much. I know the sponsor did one of these reports earlier, but I'm curious if or how this might intersect with the work at ABCGC, for example. I know there was just a new report on this done, like a 60-something page report last year on the BHI gaps in services, and the legislature just did a 9-page report outlining for legislation last year outlining those same gaps. And I'm curious how this might intersect there, or if there's additional data points we think that the sponsor thinks we ought to look at that haven't been covered by the legislature or the county.
Councilor Pena, would you like to respond, or would you like?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Actually, I have, I think, a couple of amendments. Ms. Yara, I don't see the amendment we were talking about, and then I know we have another amendment from Councilor Sena, but just to let everyone know is that, yes.
Pena, I only have one amendment.
It has Sena's part 2.
And it's for you and Councilor Sena.
Oh, so you melded it into one?
There's one amendment, Councilor. It's on the screen.
Okay. Well, I don't know if, Madam President, if Councilor Davis would prefer that I respond to his question first, or can we go on to the amendment?
Whatever you prefer. If your amendment responds to his question, then.
I think it does. Go ahead. If it's okay, Madam President, I think this will answer my question.
Okay. So Councilor Sena, I don't know if you want to go ahead and move the amendment.
Councilor Sena, are you there? Would you like to move the amendment?
Yes, Madam President and Councilor Pena, I'd like to move for Amendment 1 that you can see on the screen.
Counselors, the amendment is on the screen also. Would you like to read it, Counselor Sena?
Sure. On page 1, after line 15, insert the following. Whereas the services gap study will inform the city regarding future collaborations for service delivery and funding. On page 1, line 21, strike the term Director of Council Services and replace with Director of the Department of Family and Community Services. On page 2, strike line 1 through 3 and replace with the following. Section 2, that the following amount is hereby appropriated to the following program for fiscal year 2021, General Fund 110, Family and Community Services, Health and Human Services, of the amount of $15,000. The explanation for this amendment, it assigns responsibility to the completion of the Behavioral Services Gap Analysis to the Director of the Family and Community Services Department instead of the Director of Council Services, as there is an existing collaboration effort for the gap analysis study with Bernalillo County. Further, it removes the designation of Council Services funding for the project and appropriates $16,000 from available general fund balance to complete a companion feasibility study for a community sobriety facility as requested in Health and Family Development 2021 budget objective number 7.
Thank you, Counselor Sena. So I have a second, I believe, by Counselor Benton. Is that a second, Counselor Benton?
I'll second it, sure.
Okay, we have a second by Counselor Benton. Counselor Gibson, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am, I do. So does that, I didn't see it, but maybe it was there and I missed it. Was there an amendment or a timeline in that amendment, or an expectation of when it might be completed, and any report or
It sounds like Counselor Gibson's question is when would this be completed? Counselor Pena, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam President. So the amendment that Counselor Sena put forth was a two-prong, and let me just go ahead and try to respond to Counselor Davis's, and I think it'd be more helpful. So at ABCGC, we actually had a constituent who is Peter Kubra, the attorney. You probably all familiar with him. Well, he is actually he was wanting a gaps analysis, and he asked, and several other people called and they emailed us. I think you probably all received emails from them asking for a gaps analysis, a very thorough gaps analysis. So I indicated to him at the ABCGC that we had conducted one. I had introduced one in 2014, and then the county actually did another gaps analysis, I think in 2016, if my memory serves me correct, which was a larger gaps analysis. So it actually, the initial framework was the one in 2013. Then they added to the one in 2016. And then when I put this forward, I let Mr. Kubra know, because he said, time is of the essence. So, and he feels that, we really have to address that there's some really, big gaps in terms of the services that we're providing. So I actually introduced the bill with the language of the previous gaps analysis that we had done in 2014, and with the idea that we would work with our director, Director Pierce, and Margarita at the county to actually meld everything together and put a resolution forward. And Commissioner Quesada actually introduced and has passed it on his side, and then we'll be doing the same. So it's basically the city and the county again partnering to address these issues without reinventing the wheel. We're going to go and we're going to look at our existing gaps analysis, 2 of them I think there is in total, and identify any gaps with that. And then Counselor Sena actually on the amendment, that same amendment, added the additional amendment for an additional gaps analysis, and that's a total of $16,000. But I think Director Pierce might be able to, answer some other questions you may have in terms of the work that she and Margarita have been doing together. So I hope that answers some questions.
And Counselor Gibson, does that answer your questions? Looks like Counselor Gibson has a follow-up question.
Yes, actually. So that sounds like a really productive thing to do. I'm just trying to get clear in my mind. So are you going to be, you're going to be looking at the recent gaps analysis? Are you going to, is the intention to just work with what's been done recently, like in the past? Didn't I hear that one was done just last year? To work with those results and see if those gaps are still existing? Or is this going to take a full-blown, okay, I see Director Pierce nodding and
Director
shaking
Pierce,
heads.
you must have some answers for us.
Thank you, Madam President and Councilor Gibson. Well, I have a few answers, I think. No, this gaps analysis will take assessments that have been done. It's not meant to be a redo. It's an update to take things that have been done. And Councilor Pena referred to the 2014 one that was done by City Council. There was a 2015 one done, a bigger one by the county. And then there are these recent pieces that are out there as well. So this is, we do agree, this is urgent. It's important to do an update and come up with some strategic next steps. And so we've worked closely with the county. I've worked with Director Chavez, Margarita Chavez, and we're using the same consultant. It's Via Positiva, and we're working on the city and the county side to do this update. I hope.
Thank you. I also see Mr. Ramirez on the call if he has anything to add. Mr. Ramirez.
Madam President, thank you, and Councilor Gibson. Yeah, I think somebody mentioned earlier a question around the timeline. Feasibility study is set to hopefully be completed by the end of April, and we'll have that report to you. That's the smaller sobriety capability and what the gaps are in that area. And according to the conversations we're having with Via Positiva, we should have that report by June 15th. According to the line that I saw, we should have it by midsummer, in which the entire council would be given an update and the report copy so that you all can have that. And as Director Pierce said, this is also building off of investments and impact of those investments in county funded projects in behavioral health to also see what the impact of those outcomes and scopes are, as well as any partnership that we have for moving forward with some of our collaboratives and joint funded projects.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Councilor Gibson, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Good. We will move to Councilor Bassan. She's been waiting for quite a while, and then Councilor Sena.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, I wanted to hear a little bit more about the study for community sobriety facility. I think that that's spot on. I'm super excited to see that that's part of this, because I think that we definitely need to look at how we can solve some of the issues with people who are looking to become more sober and have some more availability for them.
Madam President Borrego and Councilor Passon, we're very excited about that. And that is driven by a budget objective. And thank you, I think, Councilor Sena, for putting that in there. No, we agree. This is a piece of the puzzle. It's a piece of the gap, but very laser focused on a sobering facility. Deputy Director Ramirez has got a great consultant that's already out of the chute working on that has done other work in our community related to sobering. And that's why we're very excited to have that here by the mid-April. And we think this is an important piece of the puzzle as we as the city move forward on Gibson Medical Center. If that indeed is one of the gaps that we need to fill, we're going to have a great opportunity in that facility to begin addressing that. But I will, with permission of the council, to ask Deputy Ramirez to add anything else there.
Madam President, Councilor Hassan, and thank you, Director Pierce. Yes, so this study is going to actually highlight, where are there opportunities for expansion. We realize that APD as well as AFR struggle with individuals who may be, dealing with substance use issues and or sobriety, and where do they go? And it's not always necessarily accessing expensive ER services and or pathway to incarceration, which is a crossover with the courts. So if the county is also expanding on their parameters for sobriety on the CARES campus. So we want to make sure that whatever is not being covered there is filled in another area. And we'll at least have a study that shows us what the cost could be and what are the appropriate personnel staff we'd have to be there to do it safely. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have a question or a comment from Councilor Sena and then Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I appreciate Councillor Bassan's question, and my comment was really relating to the funding that I'm putting forward in the amendment. Really, when I first thought of the sobriety tank, it was after a ride along with APD fire and conversations with a loved one who's also an emergency med physician, and kind of the issues that are so intertwined with one another. And each one told me that if we can get a quote unquote sobriety tank or a facility that addresses sobriety, that each department would uplift council and celebrate and have a party. So I said, well, let's, I can't promise you that, but I can put a step forward in that direction. So that's where the objective number 7 came from in our last budget discussion. And we were looking through staff, and I had not realized that we didn't put funding towards it. So the amendment now is kind of correcting that and putting funding towards that study. So I also appreciate Director Pierce and Mr. Ramirez on that as well, and cooperating with our county, and also for Councilor Pena for bringing this forward. I appreciate her flexibility and kind of having my amendment mold into hers. So thank you, Councilor Pena, for bringing forward this resolution and allowing me to also jump in and put some funding towards the sobriety tank. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great discussion. Councilor Pena?
I think all my comments and questions.
Would you like to close?
I can close. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just want to say that this is, a collaboration, and I really appreciate Director Pearson and Margarita. I think it's Sanchez now, right? Is it Sanchez or Chavez? Sanchez, right? Margarita Sanchez. I get confused. That's why I just call her Margarita. But, just working with the county and Commissioner Quesada, I think, working together hand in hand to address these issues that are paramount in our community are important. So I appreciate, Director Pierce, that you and your department are working closely with the county. This is how we address those underlying issues in our community, working together. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. With that close, we will move to our vote on the original bill as amended.
We need to vote on the amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We haven't voted on the amendment. I thought we'd already voted on the amendment. We will move to vote on the amendment, and then we will move to the original bill. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on floor amendment 1.
So floor amendment 1 passes on a 9-0 vote. So, councilors, we will go back to the original bill. Is there any further discussion on the original bill? If not, Councillor Sena or Councillor Pena, would you like to close?
I'm good. I just urge your support. Thank you, Madam President.
All right, we will move to our vote. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Okay, councilors, that is R133 as amended, passes on a 9-0 vote. So we are going to take about, let's see, what time is it right now? It is 6:09. We're going to take about a 20-minute break, and we are going to come back to R134. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the City Council of Albuquerque, and we are reconvening. We took about a 20-minute break. We, on our council agenda, if you're following us along tonight, we are on council item E, and this is R134. Happy to co-sponsor with Councilor Sena. Councilor Sena, would you like to discuss this bill?
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm going to move that R134 establishing a priorities list for the city of Albuquerque's future open space land acquisitions, identifying immediate priorities and special provisions for certain properties. I move a do pass.
Thank you, Councilor Sena. I'll second that. And
also, I'd like to move the amendment, Madam President.
Yes, if you would move floor amendment number 1, Councilor Sena.
All right, I'd like to move floor amendment number 1. This is also in conjunction in identifying some of the funds, as you can see before you, where exactly we are getting the $2.2 million. We, as the discussion in the Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee as well, and the amendment that was moved forward, we are proceeding to identify each source. And I also would like to thank the councilors that contributed towards our council set-asides and making sure that we have and don't miss the opportunities of acquiring the pooled property.
So I will second that amendment. And Councilor Sena, I would like to thank our staff also for working so diligently to help us come up with this gap in funding that you and some of the staff had identified early on. And I also want to acknowledge Commissioner Debbie O'Malley, who has a bill from the County Commission to contribute $100,000 from the county. And it was really just as simple as a phone call to her, and she said, oh yes, definitely, I'm on board. So I know there's been so many people that have worked hard on trying to come up with the gap needed for this funding. So councilors, do you have any questions regarding floor amendment number 1? It doesn't appear so. No one's hands are raised. So with that, I will, Councilor Benton, do you have a question? Councilor Benton, you are on mute. We can't hear you.
Yes,
Thank
Madam
you.
President. So with regard to the county funds, does this account for that?
Actually, Ms. Yara, would you like to answer that?
Madam President and councilors, so regarding the contribution from Commissioner O'Malley, possibly, this amendment does not include her possible contribution because she has not gotten that through approval through the commission. So I don't think we can include that until she's gotten that all approved.
And that is scheduled, Councilor, for their next agenda.
Madam President, if I can just elaborate too further, it was our plan to, if we did get the $100,000 from the county, to reimburse the counselors who have given up some of their set-aside money and in some kind of equitable way when we do receive those funds.
Thank you.
There's a number of counselors looking to ask some questions. We will start with Councilor Davis, Councilor Sena, and Councilor Jones.
Thanks, Madam President. I just want to acknowledge and say thank you. Congratulations to Madam President and Councilor Sena. I think I've done a good job of shepherding this process through and figuring this out. I also want to say thanks. I know Mr. Real spent a lot of time from the administration on this. But congratulations. I think this is a good solution to this project. It includes more voices, more people, found a financing mechanism to make that work. And I think this settles what I think will be the end of a very long, drawn out battle, and we'll turn the page on a new fabulous place. So congratulations to those two West Side councilors. I think you did a good job on this one, and you deserve to be commended.
Councilor Senna.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I'll yield my time for closing in case Councilor Jones may have any questions as well.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Councilor Senator, and thank you, Madam President. I would really like to, I know that we flashed up there very quickly where all this money is coming from, and I know that we do have people watching at home. Perhaps someone, one of the sponsors or someone from Open Space, someone could go through and just list where the money came from and what effect it has on wherever it came from, just to make it very transparent what's happened here if the sponsors don't know.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. I will ask Ms. Yara if she would go through floor amendment number 1 to discuss each of the funds.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilors, I don't know if Mr. Moya wants to put it back on the screen. There we go. So it's really item 1 on the amendment is calling out the sources of funding. The city had to make up $2.2 million to supplement the state funding we received. So in collaboration with the Parks and Recreation Department and Mr. Rael and Director Simon, of course, we came up with this plan. 2% for open space, 2019 GEO bonds. We're going to take 540,000 from there. Impact fees for parks for the Northwest Quadrant, 550,000. The open space trust fund interest. That's both what was existing and what's being appropriated by this amendment, 810,000. Councilor set-asides was a combination of the sponsors and I believe 6 other councilors, 250,000. And then from our council services budget, $50,000 will be transferred into the capital acquisition fund.
Thank you, Ms. Yara. And I just want to explain for the public, in the proposal that was brought to us a week, 2 weeks ago, there was a gap of $350,000. And so that's what this staff was tasked with, is to try to help find that funding. And that's what this amendment does. And there were, as we mentioned, there were councilors that contributed. And Commissioner O'Malley's amount of $100,000 is yet to be determined, but she's working on the votes for that. So we are hoping to have that eventually come to the city, and then that would reimburse some of the councilors for putting up some of their funding, because we know that they need that funding in their respective council districts as well. But thank you for that. Councilor Jones, do you have any other?
I do, Madam President. Just one more, a fairly simple one, but again, let's be transparent about this. What is the total cost to purchase the pool property?
Mr. Rael, are you available?
Madam President and Councilor Jones, the total price is $6.7 million.
Thank you. I appreciate that information.
Councilor Senna, would you like to close on your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Yes, thank you, Madam President. Again, I cannot extend my appreciation enough to our council staff, to Mr. Real, and our community as well for championing this for so long, and now having this real opportunity, as well as the state for contributing a large portion the funding sources. So I extend my appreciation to them and to our commissioners as well. As I know that they'll be debating the issue soon. And really, even though we didn't know if the commissioner will be able to appropriate that 100,000, that the counselors are still willing to put forward this money. So I do appreciate you all in working so hard and finding a solution to some of the concerns that some constituents had regarding the original resolution. But I think we can proceed forward, and really we have such an opportunity to protect this area, not just for our community, but for the wildlife as well, for the whole area of the Bosque and for Albuquerque. And really noting that this area, this property is to everyone, that this is a citywide project, and why so many counselors were able to contribute to this, because they saw the beauty and what it would do for our city. So really, thank you all again. Thank you to our state legislators, our own senator in the area who championed this at the state legislature. And thank you to Commissioner O'Malley, who will be bringing that forward to the commission.
Thank you, Councillor Sena. And I too want to second what Councillor Sena said. I think that this is a win-win, 4 wins, the state, the county, the city, and the community. And the community was very, very powerful, I guess is the word that I would say, in taking a stand on how they wanted to see this land, move forward. And I think that their voices were heard, and I'm happy to see that our future generations and our kids will benefit from this eventually. So all of the legislators that contributed and helped push this forward, I think we're doing our part as a city to make this a reality. So with that, I will move forward to Ms. Ortega and ask for the vote on the amendment, and then we will come back to the original bill.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on floor amendment 1.
So our floor amendment 1 passes. Councilors, we will move to our original bill for a vote. Unless there's further discussion, is there any? Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I see that Shanna Schultz is on here, and I'm wondering if all 3 of the properties on this went under the matrix review in evaluating whether or not they belong on this priorities list.
Madam President, Councillor Bassan, yeah, I did reference that matrix in my staff write-up. That is the priority matrix that the Open Space Advisory Board has been developing as a tool to conduct an objective analysis of properties that they want to recommend to the City Council to be put on the list. That matrix is not yet final. They're working every meeting to get it finalized, but they did, I think, as kind of a test run, look at the pool property under the matrix. My write-up notes that it scored a 78%, which the Open Space Division noted was a high score. The other 2 properties that the council would be approving tonight to put on the priority acquisition list, that's the Diamond Rock property and Calabasas Pueblo 2. Those did not go under the scrutiny of the matrix for the simple reason that the matrix didn't exist at the time that the board recommended those properties. Those properties were discussed in 2019 by the board. I'm not sure why the council didn't get a recommendation on those properties until now, but the matrix didn't exist at that time. So you could maybe think of them as being grandfathered into the process that the board voted them in before the matrix even existed.
Thank you, Madam President. May I follow up, please? Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Schultz. I think that that's kind of with the conversations that we've been having and the questions I've been asking. I think that it makes sense to me that these properties be added to this list. But I do recognize that there is a formal process that the advisory board is supposed to follow. And I realize that we haven't gotten a formal memo yet, or even the minimum of a memo. So I certainly am fine saying that these should be grandfathered in. I know that there is some time sensitivity for some of the properties that are on this list, but I would really hope, and I imagine that the Open Space Advisory Board is still listening as well, that we can hopefully get that matrix finalized and approved by the board so that they can utilize it when evaluating new properties to put on this priorities list in the sense of a formal memo, so that we're following our own rules properly.
Madam President and Councillor Bassan, when I attend the next Open Space Advisory Board meeting, I will pass along those sentiments as well.
Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I had the same question as Councillor Bassan. And, you know, the other properties, of course, were already on the list are worthy as well. I just looked at that when the original staff write-up and was reminded about the state land office property in Volcano Heights. I mean, that's a really important piece of property. I know the previous land commissioner was not interested in working with on that, but you know, the whole point of developing a matrix and developing a system of criteria, for putting properties on this list was to have those kind of discussions at the Open Space Advisory Board. So I hope they get that matrix going soon and revisit some of the very important properties in the northwest part of the city, the petroglyphs area, specifically that state land office property, and see if we shouldn't be reaching out and touching base with the new land commissioner. Relatively new, I guess everything's relative, but a different land commissioner than the one we last spoke to. So thanks.
Madam President.
Mr. Rael.
Madam President and members of the council, I know that Mr. Simon is listening into this conversation, and we are certainly very interested in making sure we get this matrix structure in place so that we can move forward and give you those recommendations. So I know that he is moving very diligently to get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Rael. Mr. Simon, did you want to comment?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. My first comment is thank you all so much for this outstanding support and this momentous action that you're on the verge of taking. It's really going to be a banner day for Albuquerque when we complete this acquisition. So thank you so much on behalf of future generations, present and future generations. Councillor Benton, I would just say, sir, if it's on the list, we're working on it. Believe me, these things are quite important to me, so they have a lot of my attention.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Any other comments by councilors? I don't see any hands up in the queue. So with that, we will move on to the vote for R134. Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson. Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. It appears Councillor Gibson has a comment.
Yes, Madam President. I wanted to make my comment after the vote because I do fully support the bill, and I congratulate everybody for getting a very good property in open space. However, there's something that I have not heard mentioned that I feel is worthy of talking about, and that's process, and how the process wasn't a good process because it wasn't our process. It wasn't something that was designed and put into the ordinance. And I think in doing this that we have done a disservice to the people who are serving on the Open Space Advisory Board. I know other counselors here have talked with some of the members. I certainly have, and I have heard them tell me more than one board member tell me that they felt like they were misled, that their staff manipulated them in getting this property where it is now. They felt run over. I'm reading from my notes. And they never got to see this bill before it was introduced. In fact, this was a big surprise to them until they saw it on the agenda as they walked into the meeting room. So I think we owe our board members, the people who are volunteering their time and their energy and their knowledge in serving the city by cutting corners and going around and not, certainly not being transparent, at the very least, not being transparent. So I apologize to them publicly. I will apologize on my own behalf to the Open Space Board members for the city treating them shabbily. And that's all I have to say. I don't need, don't need any answer or rebuttal or anything like that. I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. With that, I guess we will move on to item M9, Councilor Sena.
Thank you, Madam President. I move M9, supporting the passage of proposed state legislation, House Bill 156, an act relating to crime prescribing a penalty for criminal sexual penetration by a peace officer on a suspect, victim, witness, or detained person. I move it do pass.
Councilor Sena, there is a second by Councilor Bassan. Would you is there anyone that would care to discuss this item?
Madam President, I would like to bring this, as I see Commander Barker is there, just noting
Deputy Chief Cecily Barker, my former commander. Would you like her to comment, Councilor Sena?
Yes, I did want to note that APB is leading the front on this regard. So wanted to extend, I guess, for Commander Barker to elaborate on that.
Deputy Chief Barker, would you like to comment?
Yes, ma'am. Although we have policies currently in place that address these protocols, the Albuquerque Police Department is supportive of this resolution as it's more expansive and it includes victims, suspects, and detained individuals. So again, the Albuquerque Police Department is very supportive of this.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any comments or questions by councilors? Okay, well, then we will move on to Ms. Ortega for a vote. Ms. Ortega.
Madam President, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Sena. You care to close?
Yes, thank you. One of the reasons why I decided to do this memorial, and it was discussed at length at Public Safety, is that we wish we didn't have to have this type of legislation be put forward, and it is very unfortunate that it is needed, and that many other states are currently looking at their own policies to address this as well. I do want to note that this passed unanimously in the House Judiciary, and it moves on into its next committee. However, it is seeing some opposition. So I urge your support, and passing M9 so we can get this to our legislators for them to enact on. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Senna. With that, I will consider that a close, and we will move on to Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. That passes on a 9-0 vote. There being no further business in this city council meeting, it is adjourned. Have a nice evening.